doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Coming at you like a koala thing from the land down under. Yeah, we be styling like a kangaroo kid. Yeah, that be jumping like into the scene. Yeah, we're rolling in deep. Outback vibes where the wild ones meet. Adelaide to Bondi, yeah, we're feeling the beat like.
Poor Rumble. They can't do anything right, and I don't mean that literally, like they can't do anything right. I just mean like no matter what they do, it's never right, according to, all the complainers. Which I've been one of those people. Like, I'm not saying I've never complained, because I definitely have, but one thing I've noticed, man, since I've started to like pan back and try to look at the big picture and judge Rumble on like a 3 to 6 month basis instead of the day to day, it's gotten a lot easier to appreciate this platform. And you can't. Here's the thing. I don't want to make this a long video, but here's what I'll say. You can't be all excited and happy whenever you're doing well, and then as soon as you're not doing well, start hurling cannonballs over trying to take out the ship. You know what I mean? It's like you gotta. It's ebbs and flows, man. Like, look, Rumble is in a difficult position. They're up against YouTube and Twitch that are both on the right side of all this ESG, DEI, BS. YouTube doesn't have to worry about censorship. YouTube doesn't have to worry about money. YouTube is already established, and they're an evil company. So they get no pushback from by anything. And YouTube, or Rumble rather, is just, that's all they get is pushback. So I just want to say to the people at Rumble, you guys are doing great. I'm trying to block out noise and stay focused on my content, and that's working out really well. As long as you guys just stay focused on the platform and just don't waver, man. Don't waver. Just hang in there and try to make, just more good decisions than bad. And I think this platform is going to be fine. Still waiting for that app to be a first world app instead of a third world app. But once we get the app, I think the app, Chris, if you do see this, the app, hey, Owen, shut up. The app is the weak link. I know everyone's saying this, but I'm going to say it one more time. The app is by far the weakest link of this platform. I almost think you should just scrap it, dude, and spend some of that Tether money and come back in a month with an app that's that just plays the videos. That'd be great. But anyways, other than that, Rumble's doing amazing. I love this platform. I'm having fun, which is the most important thing.
Doesn't feel bad. He's missing out. Yeah. No running in the promenade. I'm yelling at people with the proximity chat. It's fun.
Whoa. I just had a guy just yell, "No running in the promenade."
Dude, crazy person. I think you're in the server.
That's new.
It was me.
Oh, okay.
Were you? I see. That was me. Yeah.
Oh shit, that was good.
Okay, a funny thing that's not funny and you definitely can't say and you mustn't mock, and it probably might cause trouble.
I don't think we've got any tickets left at the Britannia Pier. That's Great Yarmouth, isn't it? And there's just like maybe a couple left even. And I believe that they're... I believe... Okay, so just to prove where we're at, it's not anything else. It's just my funny bone. I tell you, the naughty bit of my brain is on overdrive. I think it's because it's like end of school for Katie's Arms before I go on the road. But there's just a couple of wheelchair access seats left, I believe. And it says on the booking thing, access is through the... Access is through Long John's bar. Can someone please help me? Was Long John Silver the pirate? He was, wasn't he? Was Long John Silver the pirate with no leg? I don't know. Is there anyone else that finds the fact that wheelchair access is through wheelchair access is through the pirate bar, but you haven't got a leg? No, that isn't. No, it's not funny. Exactly right. That is not funny. It's childish. It's childish. It's like when I do the whole stumpy arm stuff. Oh my God! Last year on tour, just.
The Mayor of London is Muslim. The Mayor of Birmingham is a Muslim. The Mayor of Leeds is Muslim. The Mayor of Blackburn is Muslim. The Mayor of Sheffield is Muslim. The Mayor of Oxford is a Muslim. The Mayor of Luton is a Muslim. The Mayor of Oldham is a Muslim. The Mayor of Rochdale is a Muslim. All of this was achieved by only 4 million Muslims out of the 66 million people in England. Today in England, there are over 3,000 mosques. There are over 130 Sharia courts in England, and there are more than 50 Sharia councils. 78% of Muslim women do not work and receive state support and free accommodation. 63% of Muslims do not work and receive state support and free housing. State-supported Muslim families have an average of 6 to 8 children who all receive free accommodation. Every school in the UK is required to teach about Islam. The #1 most common baby name in England is Muhammad. This is not immigration, this is invasion.
Panic at the airport's crazy. Red hot curry. Oh my! Oh man! Son of a bitch. Oh. That's fucked up. Come on. Oh my.
3 tandoori's down.
Oh my God. Scamming. Come on, guys. You guys are mean.
Why do you think that moving out of your family's house is a psyop?
It is not just the act of moving out of your family's house, but consider this. If you have 10 members of a family, And they all scatter to the four winds, where they at least a half hour apart from each other, or more, 2 hours apart, states apart. And they will not see each other anymore. And they're going to pay 10 different sets of rent, 10 different sets of utilities, 10 different sets of groceries, 10 different sets of everything. Then what are they going to do? They will live alone in these apartments or in these small structures. They will desperately crave connection with strangers. They will spend tons of money on escapist entertainment. The research actually shows the average American spends about 5 years of their life on escapist entertainment now. And that was before COVID. We need to actually update that information for after COVID now. But the average person, their depression is off the charts. They are crushingly lonely. Among millennials, for example, the research shows that up to 65% of them report overwhelming loneliness, and 35% of them report such incredible loneliness that they report feelings. So I know that this system is not working. I know that shoving people back into bad families is not the answer, but fixing families where they are truly loving and caring and nurturing, building better systems where the families can take care of each other and where there's accountability as well, so that families are governed with real love and care and nurturing, and then getting people reconnected so they're not financially struggling with 10 different sets of rent, but they can all pool their money, and then everybody has more money and more resources and less stress that way. Building that system back is exactly what we need, so that people can at least find some safety and security in this world, and then they can talk about the problems and they can solve them together as a family.
What's up, Rumble family? Bringing you to this fine, fantastic Friday afternoon. Getting ready to clean out the truck. The truck gets caked in pollen. I can't fit it into my garage because it's too long. So I have to clean it on the regular. Plus I gotta get some dirt and stuff out of there. Here's Project Orion. Let's get the exposure adjusted there. Almost done priming it. They're gonna get ready to paint it. I know you guys have been waiting for that, but unfortunately weather has not been cooperating, and I had surgery, so I couldn't do any work on it for a bit. But this is what we're actually out here doing today, is cleaning the truck. Get ready to get this garden all cleaned up and ready for planting. I got some baby plants in my house right now. They're about ready to plant. Which it looks like I gotta get some weed killer out, clean up those vines over there. But actually, none of this is the reason why I'm making this video. I'll make this video so I'm gonna show you what I think I'm gonna do a little video series, maybe even a live stream. There's Bella and Zeus, my baby girl and little Deuce, right there. The light gray one's Bella girl. The dark gray one is Zeus, the little Deuce. I'm gonna get Edgar inside the house right now. I also I'm kind of walked right by it. A little peach tree that's been like this high for almost 2 years now, because I've done little to nothing to help it grow. I don't water it enough, and then we got another peach tree right behind Zeus, and between Zeus and Bella, and a peach tree over there. But like I said, the reason why we're doing this video, I can thank Gigi and Fragniac for this, talking about the chickens and their eggs. I've been talking with my wife for a while now about doing some chickens and eggs ourselves, doing a little exploring in my backyard. This is all part of my property. It's a little fenced-in area. Now, that's not good enough to keep chickens, especially with all this overgrowth. But I think what I'm going to do for a little video series, maybe streaming, I don't know if I'll stream or do videos, we're going to clear all this brush out and get ready to build ourselves a little free-range chicken coop. I got some ideas in my head. Gonna clear all this out, and then hopefully...
So this woman wants to unalive her somewhat famous husband so that she can be with someone much worse. Now the woman's name is Victoria, and she's around 30 years old, and she's living in Nevada, and one day she meets someone kind of famous. This guy, Aaron. And Aaron's around 45, and he's one of the hosts of this TV show, Ghost Adventures, where they go around to different haunted places looking for paranormal activity. And so Victoria meets Aaron, and she thinks he's kind of fine. And soon enough, they start dating, and they fall in love, and eventually they get married. And they have their wedding at the Haunted Mansion in Disneyland because, you know, ghosts. But anyway, things are going great for them. They're in love, Aaron is on a successful TV show, and it doesn't seem like anything could screw this up. Until... a few years go by, and for some reason, though they haven't been married that long, Victoria starts feeling lonely. Maybe it's because Aaron's off filming his show all the time, or maybe it's because she's jealous of the attention he gets and she doesn't. I mean, I'm speculating here. We don't really know why she's lonely. But Victoria starts becoming unhappy. The thing is, it seems like Aaron doesn't really know that she's feeling this way. I mean, maybe she's just not communicating this with him. But one day in 2024, everything changes because she's watching this true crime docuseries. A docuseries about this guy, Grant. Grant is 35 and he's actually in prison right now. Why is Grant in prison? Well, if you remember, about a month back, we actually covered Grant's story. And if you don't remember him, let me remind you of what he did. One day in 2019, he comes across a camgirl site, and he starts watching this camgirl. Her name's Sylvie. And Grant thinks Sylvie is fine, and he starts donating money to her. And over time, he becomes obsessed with her, and he starts stealing money from his family members to donate to her. In fact, little by little, he steals over $200,000 from his family, and he just donates it all to Sylvie. And his family becomes desperate to get him to stop talking to her, so they end up taking his phone away. And in retaliation for taking his phone away, he gets a pew-pew, and he unalives his mom, his dad, and his brother. So for that, he gets convicted and he gets life in prison, which he is currently serving. Here's the crazy thing though. Prison hasn't actually stopped Grant from being obsessed with women. I mean, he's kind of well known now. Like, his story is famous. He had a whole ass docuseries made on him. And because of that, I guess women around the country have been writing to him while he's in prison. Like, oh my God, you're so fine. As if he didn't just get convicted of murdering his whole family because he couldn't have this cam girl. No, these women want him. Like, sometimes he'll have phone contact with them and he'll respond all creepy like,
"Hi, my precious little kitty. I want so many more pictures and videos, and this is just amazing that I get to see you like this. Those beautiful little that I just want to fucking bite on."
Buh. So yeah, I guess in prison, he got game? Anyway, so back to Victoria. So in 2024, she watches this whole documentary about how Grant went crazy over a cam girl and unalived his whole family. And for reasons I'll never understand, she's like, oh, he seems like a nice guy. I really want to get to know him. And that is when apparently Victoria writes to Grant. And I assume he writes back. And soon they hit it off and they're communicating back and forth. And at some point, while in prison, Grant low-key gets a contraband phone, which is a cell phone that he would keep hidden because prisoners are not supposed to have cell phones. So he gets this phone, and he and Victoria start texting one another. And I guess over time, they really start liking each other, and they fall in love. Now keep in mind, she's still married to Aaron. So now she's having like a full-blown emotional affair. And she starts texting Grant about how she wants out of her marriage and how she'd rather have a life with him, while poor Aaron, who from the reporting I've read is universally described as a nice guy and a big teddy bear. This guy has no idea any of this is going on. He apparently believes nothing is wrong with his marriage to Victoria and that everything is going great. Because while Victoria is around Aaron, she's pretending that it is. Now, this is where things get really messed up. So Victoria and Grant are texting back and forth all the time, and they allegedly come up with a plan to get rid of Aaron for good. They decide to hire a hitman to take Aaron out. And so Grant is apparently all excited and he gets right to work on this plan. And he uses his contraband phone to contact someone he knows on the outside. I guess he just like texts this guy and he's like, hey, want to murder someone? And this person is like, all right. And through text, Victoria agrees to pay this hitman $11,515, which is a very specific amount. But anyway, boom, they have officially set this plan in motion. Meanwhile, in front of Aaron, Victoria is still pretending everything is fine and that she's happy in this marriage. Like on Instagram, she posts pictures of them together on a plane, while he's still oblivious. Like on their wedding anniversary, he posts a picture of their wedding saying, 2 years ago today, I got to marry my best friend. I'm so lucky to have you in my life. while at the same time, she's texting Grant, talking about the hit that they're about to pull off and saying things like, "I'm so anxious, Lolo. I just can't believe it's happening." And then she asks, "Am I a bad person?" While Grant's like, "Of course not, baby. Why would you think that?" And she's like, "Because I chose to end his existence, not divorce." And by the way, I didn't make these texts up. These are word for word what they texted each other. Anyway, so the date of the hit approaches, and Victoria and Grant and this hitman all make their preparations. And they allegedly tell the hitman they want Aaron to be unalived while he's out of state, while he's on location filming Ghost Adventures in California. Then Victoria texts Grant Aaron's schedule and his shooting locations, the make of his car, a picture of him. She's also able to give away his exact location with the Find My app. And so Grant sends all this information to the hitman. So now the hitman has everything he needs to get the job done. Then Grant allegedly texts that Aaron's asleep right now in the hotel room, signaling the hitman that he should move forward. Then Grant waits, and he waits, and he waits. And he's not sure if Hitman did the job or not. So he texts him, "Can I get an update? Was it done?" And that is when everything falls apart. Because suddenly, boom, correctional officers at the prison bust Grant for having a phone that he's not supposed to have, and they take it away from him. And as of now, we don't know what happened to Hitman. Like, we just don't have that information yet. But Aaron is still alive, thank goodness. So the hit didn't work. But now Victoria can't communicate with Grant because he doesn't have his phone. So she doesn't know what the hell happened or what's going on. So she just goes on about her life and keeps pretending like her marriage is fine. For months, she's posting on her Instagram, like her and Aaron on Valentine's Day, "Mini golf with my Valentine." She's posting about the Lego set she built for him. She posts this picture with their cat, "Cuddle puddle with my boys." See, that's Aaron's leg, that's her leg, and that's his hand on her leg. So to the outside world, everything seems to be going fine for them. So this goes on for several months, and this whole time, prison admin has Grant's contraband phone. And eventually, they start going through it. And that is when they see all these texts between him and Victoria talking about hiring a hitman to unalive her husband. And so, bam, police go and they arrest her. And I don't have a mugshot, but here's a picture of her in real life. Also, just reminding you that she hasn't been convicted of any of this, so all of this is technically alleged. Meanwhile, we're all glad that Aaron is okay, and I've read that since then, he has filed for divorce. So, good for him.
All right, guys, I think we got a pretty good idea what's going on with the Signal messages leaks. Now, there's obviously somebody covering something up here. I'll tell you what I think is going on and what other people think is going on, but let me just kind of lay it out as now everybody who's relevant to this story has basically spoken out in the last 24 hours. But I think it's important to begin with this. With all this outrage that we're seeing, let's look at where it's directed and where it's not directed. Because a lot of times when you're dealing with propaganda and communications, these are some of the most important things to look out for to understand the story. So somehow, and this is what Walls is claiming, somehow Goldberg just ends up in this Signal chat group. Well, obviously that's bullcrap. Somebody added him to that Signal chat. Now, anybody who has Signal chats on their app, or really in any messaging service, it could be X, it could be anything, it could be WhatsApp. You get into these chat groups and it just gets out of control. That's why I don't take part in it anymore, because it's so out of control. There's some group chats I'm in for work that are important that I have to stay up with, and some other ones. But most of you get added to these group chats, it's just total free for all, total out of control. Usually the topics that you're supposed to be discussing are lost in translation. So it's already a messy thing with these group chats. It's out of control. So I could see how, if you're not following every movement, every message, somebody could get added to the group and it get lost in translation. Now, this shouldn't be a mystery. Somebody knows who added it to the group, added Goldberg to the group. In fact, it should even be recorded in the group. And this idea that, oh, maybe somebody hacked Signal and added him to the group, it seems completely far-fetched, but that's what some people are now claiming. Now, most people believe that it was Walz that added Goldberg to the group. Whether this was for selfish purposes, he wanted to be in with the in crowd, in with the Beltway reporters and just be popular and sit at the cool kids table, or whether he wanted to add him for some other journalism reason. Maybe it was a mistake. That's what seems to be the case. But notice how nobody's really directing the outrage at Walz. And nobody's really directing the outrage at Goldberg, who just shared a second wave of classified war plans, which is obviously BS. Is it sensitive information? Yes. Is it embarrassing? Yes. Should it have been shared with a journalist from The Atlantic? No. So, I mean, really, worst case scenario, you're looking at really an embarrassment, egg on your face situation. But I'm not even necessarily saying it's Hegseth, other than he was just the one that shared the information. But as he explained today in full confidence, he was just doing his job, sharing the information with this group. That's part of it. Let's talk about stolen elections. Did you know, coming up next week, there is a Supreme Court election in Wisconsin? Did you know, as of now, over $600 million has been spent on this election? Why would a Supreme Court seat in Wisconsin in a special election warrant spending more than $500 million? And who knows, it might even get to that number before the election happens. Why would that be the case? Well, I'm going to tell you why. Because you see, election theft is not only on election day. Election theft is not only stealing votes, fraudulent votes, voting machines. No. Actually, the Democrats have many different ways of stealing elections. And this, what they engage in, what they're trying to do in Wisconsin, is actually one of their biggest ways of stealing elections. This is how they steal Senate seats. This is how they steal House seats. And if the Democrats were unable to change the way the Senate was selected at the congressional level, they would have never controlled the Senate. Not one time in the history of this country would the Democrats have ever had a majority in the Senate if we were still going by the originalist political science of how the country was founded. They wouldn't have controlled it once. Did you know that? But let's talk about what's happening in Wisconsin. Why are they so focused on this Supreme Court seat? Well, if the Democrats flip the Supreme Court in Wisconsin and it becomes run by liberals, they are going to gerrymander and they are going to flip 2 congressional House seats in the state of Wisconsin. Now you do the math. What happens if they flip 2 congressional House seats? The Democrats take the House. Do you now see why more than $500 million has been spent on a special Supreme Court election? Do you understand what's going on? Well, golly gee, how can they flip 2 congressional seats? Ladies and gentlemen, what the Democrats have done across the nation, and of course they use their same tactics. They claim they're fighting racism and they're standing up for equity and equality, but no, that's not what they're doing. They're gerrymandering. They're stealing elections. What they do is they go into major metropolitan areas that vote 70, 80% blue, and they redistrict them. Because the Democrats know they don't need 80% of the vote to win. They just need 51. So they siphon 10% off into a red district to the north. They siphon another 10% off to a red district in the south. And if there's some room left over, they might siphon another 5-10% to a red district to the west. They still get their blue results in the cities, about 60%, but all they need is 51. And then they get that bonus 10% in the rural areas and the county areas, and they flip them blue too. That's right, folks. It's not just about election day. It's not just about fraudulent votes and voting machines and everything else. No. The Democrats have been cheating in more ways than one since they changed how we select our senators and since they've been gerrymandering seats in the House. You stop these practices from happening, the Democrats will never control Congress ever again. And in fact, it's unlikely they would have ever had a majority in the Senate or the House unless they ever engaged in these tactics. Be on the lookout. Pay attention to Wisconsin.
We should not be at the mercy and trust of other states. The U.S. has a somewhat of a grandstanding policy around this, which is that we will not build bioweapons, and the best offense is really stronger defense. The problem is that we have no defense. So we're kind of in this really precarious position right now where we are very vulnerable to a biological weapon attack. And we've seen that with COVID. We saw that very briefly with H5N1, but that didn't really have much spillover risk. So even if it's man-made or natural, it's still a threat. The reality is that most of our foreign adversaries are building out these laboratories. They're building out these weapons. In many ways, these systems tend to be referred to as like poor man nukes because they're a lot cheaper and also don't really respect borders, so they can proliferate a lot faster and don't really require that direct confrontation. So it really underscores a frightening reality where these weapons can be used in really novel ways to really take down and break down the resilience of our military and also the critical infrastructure around the U.S. So even with the Biological Weapons Convention, there still is an outlasting and really real threat that's impeding with these systems.
Well, just a few hours ago, President Trump posted this on Truth Social, April 2nd, Liberation Day in America, reminding us all that this is coming. So people have been trying to, go through the tea leaves here on exactly what's coming on April 2nd. What does Liberation Day for the United States look like? It's not going to be just some small announcement. I'm going to go through what sources have been telling us here at Redacted as it relates to the IRS. We'll talk about that here on the show in a second. But here's what Trump said in his own words. April 2nd is Liberation Day for America because we will start taking back some of the vast wealth that has been taken from us due to the many weak, incompetent, perhaps even dishonest politicians who have represented us in the past. So what exactly is coming? And we know tariffs for one thing, right? This is a big piece of it.
But we're talking about politicians. So what the major questions are those American politicians? Because we know that they profit off of investments that they make, and that still is allowed, that Congress is allowed to make investments. Is it people who maybe have dual citizenships, people who have been representing other countries' interests? If we could just look at, can we put that explanation back? Perhaps even dishonest politicians. It's like maybe we'll get around to that. Those perhaps even like it's obviously an unclear statement. So we could read the tea leaves until the cows come home.
I think the biggest the cows come home. I think the biggest thing is going to be I think the biggest piece of all of this, what we've heard from President Trump, is tariffs, right? 25% tariffs, going to war with China economically. What will this look like for American aluminum, American steel, back at home, American manufacturing? That's the biggest piece of it. Here's President Trump in his own words talking about this more deeply. Watch.
Is there going to be a summit in June?
It could be. I mean, I wouldn't mind a summit, but there's going to be something else taking place. It's called April 2nd, and that's going to be tariffs. And China will pay, and other countries will pay. We've been ripped off by every country in the world, friend and foe. And on April 2nd, I call it the liberation of America. We've been the fat, dumb, foolish country that allowed everybody to rip us off, including our friends. Look at NATO. Until I got involved in NATO, we were paying for the whole thing practically.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, that could mean, and the timing of it is suspicious because it's just days before April 15th, which is a tax filing day. Many people have already filed their taxes, so that's not going to impact that tax filing day, obviously, or else we're going to give refunds to people who've already done it.
So this is, to me, it's going forward. So this is the IRS. I think there's bubbling rumors right now, and I've heard from sources who specifically told us here at Redacted that something big is about to happen with the IRS. Are we about to see a closure of the IRS? Now, I don't know if it's fully going to be closed or if a large, massive pieces of it are going to be closed on April 2nd. That this will put the power back in the people, instead of taking tax dollars out of our pockets. This could be an entire shift of people under $150,000 a year who are making $150,000 a year not paying any taxes. Mm-hmm. There's also word, of course, that these Doge checks that President Trump wants to send out of like $5,200 of Doge money that was taken from the American people would go back to the American people. But also, as we talked about here on the show, the external revenue service, right, which is another big piece of this, which we're likely to also be announced. Now, that comes from Howard Lutnick, specifically in the Trump administration, that we'll hear an announcement about the external revenue service. Hard to say it. I'm so used to saying internal.
Yeah.
What would that be, though? The external revenue service?
Well, the idea of that is that goods and services sold are taxed at the sale and the exchange between countries. So if we're buying something from Mexico, say corn or what have you, then that tax is paid then. So the way it works now, obviously, you know this, you pay taxes on the dollars you earn, then you pay taxes when you buy that corn because there's a tax on top of that, and it's depending on which state you're in. And so we are doubly taxed. This is something he's talked about extensively. So it would be interesting to see. And then the people with Trump derangement syndrome that just hate everything he says, are they really going to defend this system, especially when they're trying so hard right now, Democrats, to frame themselves as the party of the working class, which is a lull. That's laughable, right? They've done nothing for the working class except patronize to them and make their life worse and more dangerous. And so how is this going to work? Is this something we can unite around? Is fiscal responsibility? You know, that's a joke too.
Right.
That's a funny. That's
Scott,
a joke.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says, talked about April 2nd as well and what's coming. Watch.
On April 2nd, we're going to produce a list of other countries' tariffs, and we are going to go to them and say, look, here's where we think the tariff levels are, non-tariff barriers, currency manipulation, unfair funding, labor suppression, and if you will stop this, we will not put up the tariff wall. If you do, then we will put up the tariff wall to protect our economy, protect our workers, and protect our industries.
Right. So get your guesses in. What does this mean? Is this something that will actually serve the American people? Redacted is brought to you by American Financing, which is a great way to dig yourself out of debt. If you have had a hard time in the last 4 or 5 years, who hasn't? It's not your fault. Interest rates are up, expenses are up, inflation hit us all hard. So if you're still carrying credit card balances with more than 20% interest rates, that's doo-doo. You need to get rid of that. You can ignore the one thing around you that you might have some equity in, which is your home, you shouldn't do that. That's where American Financing can help you. They can teach you to leverage that asset in order to dig yourself out of debt and build wealth instead of continuing to dig deeper and deeper. If you give them 10 minutes, they can give you a shot of saving $800 every single month. And that's exactly what they've been doing for their average customer. It's a simple no obligation call that can change everything. They have a team of salary-based mortgage consultants. So there's an incentive. There isn't any incentive to put you in a loan that doesn't make sense. It's just, again, something wealthy people do is a mindset of like, oh, let me see. Does this work for me? I'm going to check it out and see if I can learn this. And they're not afraid to learn new financial tools and put them into place. But we're not taught that in American education. So you have to learn it yourself. You have to seek it out yourself. So call American Financing at 866-890-8434 or head on over to americanfinancing.net/redacted. One more time, it's americanfinancing.net/redacted, or give them a call at 866-890-8434. Well, here's something that didn't serve the American people is bombing Yemen. Why did we have to do this? Why did we do this? Well, Jeffrey Goldberg over at The Atlantic says that he was led in on a group chat that was planning the bombing of Yemen just last week. He was accidentally added to a signal group and he thought, that's kind of weird, but he lurked instead and kind of watched what was happening. He says the person who did this was Tim Walz from the Walz, say his name. I can't find it here. I will find it for you. From the Trump administration. And he watched as Trump senior officials, cabinet members, continued to debate whether they should do this, how they would do it, and when they should do it. And it shows us that there is, in fact, dissent inside the Trump administration. Now, Michael Walz. It's a strange story. And taken at face value, it would indeed tell us, okay, well, some inside the Trump administration did want to bomb Yemen for this shipping route that the Houthis had blocked in the wake of October 7th. And some did not, particularly the J.D. Vance camp had said, I don't think we really need to do this. There's a lot of nuggets in here, but it's also would be illegal because one, Walz himself had set messages to disappear, which is against the law. Two, it could be a setup for various reasons, such as the part in here, and you should read for yourself. Do we have screens of it? Shall we put it up?
Yeah. Here's the. Okay.
Go ahead.
So this is from The Atlantic, where he writes. Jeffrey Goldberg says the world found out shortly before 2 p.m. Eastern time on March 15th that the United States was bombing Houthi targets across Yemen. I, however, knew 2 hours before the first bombs exploded that the attack might be coming. The reason I knew this is that Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, had texted me the war plan at 11:44 a.m. The plan included precise information about weapons, packages, targets, and timing. This is going to require some explaining. So it's interesting that he says Pete Hegseth sent it to him because we know Mike Waltz, who's a neocon, who, if anyone should be fired, I'm hoping it's Mike Waltz because he is the one who's been really kind of driving us towards war with Iran. He is the one who wants war with Iran. So he is a neocon inside the Trump administration. I would love for Mike Waltz to be the one that gets fired here. But anyway, why is he saying, Pete Hegseth texted him the war plans from the Signal group?
Well, he was lurking in the Signal group and he saw these texts such as this from J.D. Vance, who had previously said, I'm not sure we should do this. I'm not sure POTUS understands the implication, but if you think we should do it, just do it. But then we're going to have to bail Europe out again. And let's make sure our message is tight here. To which Pete Hegseth says, yes, I fully share your loathing of European freeloading. It's pathetic, but we're the only ones who can do this. To which later another administration official says POTUS wants to do it. It's a green light. So we're going to do it. And then some planning of it. Now, what's kind of weird is that this planning that goes on, battleship type bomb X5 right now at this time with these bombs. Why would that happen in a Signal chat when none of the recipients on this chat have access to that? Why would they have to know that? You would think that you'd need to tell the bombers, but do you need to loop in Marco Rubio on the exact military strategy right? I'm not using the right words, but you understand what I'm saying.
Right. Well, also, I mean, and we heard from John Kiriakou, who was a former CIA agent, and said that this leak is a violation of the Espionage Act. At least according to the judge in my case, Judge Leonard Brinkmia, a Clinton appointee, said that providing national defense information to any person not entitled to receive it is worthy of 10 years in prison, accidental or no accident. It's beyond time to rewrite the outdated and politicized 1917 Espionage Act. So that's pretty crazy.
Right.
Again, why was this included? Why are they using Signal to communicate?
Right. Signal, the reporter points out clearly, is not an ordained messaging platform. It's not used inside of any kind of war room. It's not, it's not archived. So why would they be doing that? And then not be careful with who's on the group chat? Now, all of us have copied in the wrong person on group chats. I mean, raise your hand if you haven't, right? But this feels very purposeful. And Brian Hughes, a spokesperson for the National Security Council, has said that it appears to be an authentic message chain, and they are reviewing how that happened. But again, the fact that it's not an ordained communication platform, that Walz had set some of his messages to disappear after 1 week or 4 weeks, raises questions about whether you're violating the federal records laws. And again, is there a message here that they want other countries to hear, such as the European Union? And I mean, I don't know. Have we not been clear about our sort of disdain for the freeloading of European nations?
Yes.
Did we need to leak this in another way? What would be the advantage of doing it this way?
The only thing I can think of is if they're trying to torpedo one of these people. So are they trying to torpedo Hegseth? Are they trying to torpedo Mike Waltz?
Right.
But again, Mike Waltz apparently is the one that added Jeffrey Goldberg to the chat from The Atlantic. So it'd be great if Mike Waltz is the one that actually gets pushed out. But, again,
like someone would have done that from his phone, and then he gets in trouble. Like, I don't know how that happened.
I don't know. It's hard to say. But again, it seems like all of the strategy right now is pushing this towards Hegseth. Like they're trying to get Hegseth fired.
You think?
I clearly it seems that way. Yeah.
Go ahead.
It just seems crazy to me that the journalist would like hang out in there. Like if I accidentally got added to a group chat and I realized it was like the vice president, the secretary of defense, I'm like, I'm out of here before I see anything at all.
Yeah, well, Jeffrey Goldberg is really a sleazy guy. So, like, let's be honest here, okay?
Oh, what I would do is I would say, this is Natalie Morris from Redacted. Am I supposed to be here? And I would screenshot that and I would save it because I would not want to be framed for anything.
Yeah.
And I would make damn sure that everybody acknowledged my presence. There's no way I would lurk in a group like that.
I know you guys are sharing some war strategy here. Just want to let you know this is Clayton from Redacted. You guys added me to this group chat. Like I see that you're planning this war in Yemen and making these bombing runs. Am I supposed to be?
You sure you want me here?
Sure you want me to be
I don't
here?
know if you guys are familiar with like Telegram and those channels, but what they do is it'll actually show that you've read the message. Like it shows who's seen it. So they would know that you're seeing that information.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know how this happened, but apparently there are 18 other people on this whole chat. So
now another piece of this is, again, the part that J.D. Vance is pushing back. He doesn't seem to want to escalate war in the Middle East. And he and his spokespeople had to say, well, we're on board with whatever POTUS wants. If POTUS greenlit this, we are the company guy. We're all good with it. So even though the chat does seem to indicate that there's hesitation about escalating, and that is what we would know, that's what we've seen to be reading from other sources, is that the vice president and the president absolutely do not want to escalate in the Middle East. And that seems to be what Steve Witkoff, their Middle East envoy, is saying as well. So are they setting up who is for and who is against it? Because that also makes this quite clear.
yeah, they're trying to call people out publicly about this, like going to war with Iran. Like here's who's on board and who's not. And we know that Mike Waltz is fully on board with this. So get these neocons out of there. But it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably the worst in terms of looping in the wrong person.
Yeah.
Last week, I accidentally texted in Portuguese from my watch to Clayton's mom. That's not the same.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling better about that mistake.
Sting Fury says, "Hey, you guys are promoting lies." No, this has been widely reported. In fact, the White House confirmed this. So this is now confirmed by the White House that yes, these text messages did leak out, and it was first reported in the Atlantic, which I wouldn't normally trust the Atlantic at all, but the White House did confirm it. So yeah.
We're reporting the reporting and trying to parse out why.
Yeah.
So we've not reported any lie. So kiss my butt. Show is brought to you by Hillsdale College, because if you have a passion for learning, which clearly you do, nobody comes to Redacted who doesn't have a passion for learning. Every single one of you watching us right now, you guys know something. You come here with an educated opinion, and I love that. And if you want to continue the learning process, then Hillsdale College is a great place for you, because they offer more than 40 free online courses. That's right, totally free. You can learn about the works of C.S. Lewis, stories in the book of Genesis, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution, which is something we're going to talk about in the news right now, right here, right now. The rise and fall of the Roman Republic, the history of the ancient Christian church. All of this is offered within Hillsdale's free online course. You may really enjoy, at this juncture in modern history, Introduction to Western Philosophy. It's a 14-lecture online course where you explore the works of the most important philosophers of the West. So all of these courses are self-paced. You can start whenever you want. And again, I say it's free. So go to hillsdale.edu/redacted to enroll. There's no cost. Easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/redacted and enroll for free. One more time, hillsdale.edu/redacted.
Here's a story that should make everyone think twice before spitting into a tube and mailing it off to a giant tech company. Genetic testing company 23andMe has just filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy this morning, and its CEO, Anne Wojcicki, I never say her last name, Wojcicki? Anne Wojcicki, yes, the sister of the former YouTube CEO, Susan Wojcicki. So, man, these sisters, powerful tech players, right?
Boss ladies.
And ex-wife of Google founder Sergey Brin, by the way, who loves data, loves having those big CIA contracts as well, has stepped down. Now, the company enters a court-supervised sale of its assets. So now the big question, what the hell happens to the genetic data of millions of Americans, and what happens if it winds up in the hands of a foreign adversary? Like, what if a Chinese company buys all the data without your consent at all? They own it as an asset, right? So it just gets sent. This is your DNA we're talking about here. One of the most personal, sensitive pieces of data imaginable, and now it might end up on the auction block. Remember, 23andMe already had a massive data breach back in 2023. We covered it here at the time, and it exposed info from nearly 7 million people, including family trees, health predispositions, and more. The hacker at the time didn't even have to break in. All they did was use old login credentials, just logged in, and then 23andMe's system gave them access to connected family data without any additional verification at all. Edward Snowden at the time said companies that collect your genetic data are building permanent records about you and your children that can be sold, stolen, or seized. And so let's talk about this, regulating this, right? Because there was a bunch of Democrats who are trying to push, Chuck Schumer included, trying to push to regulate this. But as Snowden points out, regulating it is one thing, and it only works if the data is never leaked or stolen. Watch.
The problem isn't data protection. The problem is data collection. Regulating the protection of data presumes that the collection of data in the first place was proper, that it was appropriate, that it doesn't represent a threat or a danger, that it's okay to spy on everybody all the time, whether they're your customers or whether they're your citizens, so long as it never leaks, so long as only you are in control of what it is that you've sort of stolen from everybody.
Yeah. California Attorney General sent this message out, basically saying people who are using 23andMe need to delete their data as soon as possible. Like, you can log in, and under California's law, you can log in and delete your own stuff immediately if you want to, apparently. I mean, hopefully they're not holding it somewhere else, but you can log in and go through the deletion process. And
well, Edward Snowden talks about that in his book, that you never really delete something.
Right.
Even if you delete something from your own computer, it still exists in some phantom form in another part of the computer. So do not rely on deleting things ever.
I guess the idea is that maybe it wouldn't be sold off, but that's the problem. It's like, how is this going to be used? And could it be used in warfare? So I'm not a fan of this guy in general, Colorado Democratic Congressman Jason Crow. He's a big fan of illegal immigration in the United States, but he has been warning about this. It's interesting why Democrats, like, they're very pro privacy when it comes to this kind of stuff, but they're very pro censorship. I can't wrap my head around it, like these weird contradictions here. But here is Jason Crow, Democrat from Colorado, warning us all about what happens if this data leaks. Watch.
Yeah, so to be clear, I think one of the things we're talking about here is that there are now weapons under development and developed that are designed to target specific people. Right, that's what this is, where you can actually take someone's DNA, take their medical profile, and you can target a biological weapon that will kill that person or take them off the battlefield or make them inoperable. So you can't have a discussion about this without talking about privacy and commercial data and the protection of commercial data, because expectations of privacy have degraded over the last 20 years. Young folks actually have very little expectation of privacy. That's what the polling and the data show. And people will very rapidly spit into a cup and send it into 23andMe and get really interesting data about their background. And guess what? Their DNA is now owned by a private company and can be sold off with very little intellectual property protection or privacy protection. And we don't have legal and regulatory regimes to deal with that. So we have to have an open and public discussion, and this is going to have to be a political discussion about what does the protection of healthcare information, DNA information, and your data look like, because that data is actually going to be procured and collected by our adversaries for the development of these systems.
Wow. So how will they use it in warfare?
Mm-hmm.
I can only imagine how they would use it in warfare, targeting individuals in certain areas, with biometric data that they have stored in a database that they can then use, using drone programs to launch and go after these individuals.
That's dystopic.
It's already happening.
I don't relish talking about this again, but as much as this continues to be the direction that things are headed, I don't see any alternative to it. Let's put it this way. MAHA is a great idea. It is a force to be reckoned with. But the question is, what is its fate in the post-election era? Now, there are some very positive things going on at the moment. Jay Bhattacharya and Marty McAree were both confirmed. So that is a huge step in the right direction. Mm-hmm. I know less about Marty, and I think there are some places in COVID where he may have stumbled. On the other hand, I am loath to judge anybody completely because there was no good way to thread this needle. In any case, congratulations to both Marty and Jay. That's great news that they've been confirmed and deserved in both cases. But I did want to point out that for the second time, Bobby Kennedy has put out a tweet that has this very strange ring to it. Jen, you want to put it up? So this is, not only is this Bobby Kennedy, our new HHS secretary, tweeting this, but he's tweeting this in his official capacity.
Well, just, I mean, as you said the last time, it's not at all clear this isn't a staffer who put this out.
Yeah, on the other hand, if it was a staffer who put it out, I would imagine that Bobby would have called that staffer in and said, what the hell are you doing? And don't do it again. And so the fact that this is happening again makes that problem even more concerning. So it says, this is from March 24th. Instead of inspiring universal condemnation, the October 7th Holocaust triggered a global wave of anti-Semitism. Ivy League campuses became a greenhouse for poison. President Trump has ordered his cabinet to use every constitutional tool to upright this divisive weed. I'm glad Columbia has agreed to this first step and will begin to restore itself as a garden of tolerance, reason, compassion, and respect. Now, there are a number of things that are troubling here. This is the HHS secretary. It is not obvious why he is tweeting about October 7th and anti-Semitism in his official capacity. I don't begrudge him his ability to do so as a private citizen. You don't lose the right to speak as a private citizen just because you hold an official role, though maybe it puts some sort of informal burden on you. But look, Bobby Kennedy is my friend. I don't want to have to say this, but this feels like a hostage video. This feels like somebody who has no choice but to say the things that he is saying from the podium at which he is saying them because of some force that we cannot see. And the idea not only of making anti-Semitism the focus of this new Health and Human Services era, but to call October 7th a Holocaust obviously is the most charged of terminology. So I wanted to try to reframe this a little bit. Very few people have thought deeply about why anti-Semitism is special, why it is unique among kinds of racism. I've done a lot of thinking on this issue. I believe it has to do with the unique way in which Jews have traditionally lived amongst other populations, which means that when times are good, Jews are tolerated and often embraced, but when times are bad, there is an instinct to displace us. So anti-Semitism is special because Jews have lived traditionally as a diaspora. The problem is when you start using the special hazard of anti-Semitism, which became something that the world began to become clear on in the aftermath of the Holocaust and World War II, when you start invoking anti-Semitism as a way to deflect criticism, for example, criticism of the state of Israel, which is in a state of war, to create a zone around an event like October 7th where we cannot discuss the oddities of that event. What it does is it creates anti-Semitism. It can't help but create anti-Semitism. The fact that people are afraid to talk about these issues when they wouldn't be afraid to talk about the foreign policy of any other state on earth, where they wouldn't be afraid to be talking about whether or not another conflict had gone too far or was unnecessary. The fact that we have to be afraid of being accused of anti-Semitism if we voice those concerns surrounding Israel, its war in Gaza, the October 7th attack, is of course going to create exactly the preconditions that are going to unleash what I think will be an unprecedented wave of anti-Semitism, because we are now living in a modern high-tech world in which this doesn't just result in people, grumbling in their own neighborhood, because frankly, we're all now living in one neighborhood. So I don't know what's going on. I will say that I believe Bobby Kennedy's commitment to defend Jews and to advocate for Israel is longstanding and it is genuine. I don't think that that is in and of itself the problem here. But the fact that he is tweeting this from his official account exactly at the moment when Make America Healthy Again should be firing on all cylinders. This is the moment at which we should address the myriad of problems that Bobby Kennedy is in many ways uniquely encyclopedic about, suggests that something else has different priorities and that Bobby is experiencing some kind of pressure that he is not able to resist. In that context, I think it is important to recognize this is not the last time we're going to see this. The fact that there are forces shaping policy in the United States that are not fundamentally about the well-being of Americans is troubling. And it is in our interest to figure out how to liberate people like Bobby Kennedy to do the things that I assure you, as someone who has sat with him, spoken extensively to him on issues about the chronic health epidemic, about the health and well-being of American children, about the poisoning of all of us in the toxic soup, as he describes it, of agrochemicals and food additives. We need to figure out how to free Bobby Kennedy and everybody else so they can go back to doing the public's bidding from their high offices. And that involves thinking about this in game theoretic terms. So my argument is we have to actually figure out how to give amnesty to the people who are supposed to be our representatives in government. And that is not something that we can do willy-nilly. Obviously, there are things that are unforgivable, and then there are other things which may persuade a person to do something other than what their conscience would have them do, that are forgivable. And, you know, for example, I would say it is a hard line for me, and I think it should be a hard line for all of us, that anybody who has willingly injured, damaged children, that is unforgivable, right? That's not going to be Bobby Kennedy. Bobby Kennedy is a very decent man, and he cares very deeply about children especially. And so I'm not concerned that that is in play here, though I am concerned about that being in play with many others in high office at the moment. Just to be clear, I'm not talking about the president. I also think the president is not involved in such things. But in any case, I'm arguing that we have to figure out how to give people amnesty from things that are personally embarrassing or shocking, that they may be, you know, let's face it. The Epstein video library was collected for a reason, and the fact that we don't know in any official way who collected it and that we don't have it means that it is still at somebody's disposal, and it is essentially certain that it is being used for whatever purpose it was collected to shape the world around us. Is it shaping the world around us, you know, 1% here or there, or is it shaping it 50%, 75% in some cases? We don't know. But I think we have to imagine that maybe it is playing a much more important role than many people suspect. And that, diffusing it, taking the power away from it by figuring out how to, and as far as I know, although Kennedy did encounter Epstein, I don't think there's any evidence he went to that island or anything like that. So I'm not suggesting that this is Epstein connected to Kennedy, but in general, something has collected compromise on a lot of people, and our system doesn't function. And part of the reason it doesn't function is presumably downstream of that compromise. So we in the public have to figure out how to liberate those who we have elected to high office for the purpose of doing our bidding. We have to figure out how to liberate them, and amnesty is going to be an important part of it. So we in the public have to figure out how not to react in the way that we would predictably react to shocking information that emerges on people so that they can stop being afraid of it coming out.
Obviously, some of the energy behind Trump's election this time had to do with reactions to the kind of free speech debacles, the total.
Hey everybody, by now you've probably heard what happened to Disney's Snow White. Opening weekend was a disaster. Families didn't show up because they're tired of beloved classics being stripped of everything good and true and beautiful. Trust matters to families, right? We want to trust that what we're putting our kids in front are actually going to be good for them. Well, Disney, I've got some more bad news for you. There is an alternative to your channel, and it's called Brave Plus. And it's wholesome, and it's fun. It ignites kids' imagination for the good. It's got my new show, Iggy and Mr. Kirk, on it, which is the new Mr. Rogers meets Sesame Street. It's faith-filled, and it teaches your kids good, clear moral lessons. Plus, about 50 more shows that are time-tested, not overstimulating for your kids. Shows like Bob the Builder and Strawberry Shortcake, and so many others. If it's not good, it doesn't make the cut. Go check it out. It's called Brave Plus. You can just download the app on your smart TV and watch the first 3 episodes for free and so much more. Or you can go to braveplus.com and you can subscribe. God bless you.
All right, so John, you work at Columbia University. I do. Speaking of clown cars.
I should say that I have been on a blissful sabbatical for the entire year.
Lucky you.
So I only know so much, but go ahead.
All right. Well, I mean, starting last week, Trump is going to war now on elite universities. Now, I cannot be a hypocrite. I went through my book that came out last year. It'll be out in paperback very soon. And I can't be a hypocrite. I wrote down some of the things that I've said over the past that were gathered in the book. Don't go to an elite college. It makes you stupid. Elite universities are the mouth of the river from which manner all radical left illiberal, yes, illiberal nonsense flows. They're 4-year daycare centers for the cry bullies of the privileged to complain about privilege. College today is not the college you remember. It's a day spa and a North Korean re-education camp put together. They're asshole factories. If ignorance is a disease, Harvard majority is the Wuhan wet market. Okay, so that's where I am. I can't, but I get the inclination, but as with most things now with this new administration, the way they do it, you can't do it by taking people off the street just because they wrote an op-ed pro-Palestinian. I'm not pro-Palestinian the way they see it either, but, or, you know, these people who are just disappeared because they have a tattoo. I'm so glad I don't have tattoos.
Bill, I should say that the kind of student you're talking about, in my experience, is a minority of the students. I don't see the whole campus as this, but there is a problem. I mean, frankly, Columbia has tried, for example, this year, to eradicate or at least dampen anti-Semitism. I mean, Manoush Shafiq did get 100 students arrested. You now cannot get onto the campus without a card, which is in order to protect, especially Jewish students, from having to listen to anti-Semitic protests all day long. The 3 administrators who were nakedly anti-Semitic in their texts were justifiably fired. But the thing is, I don't think this is really about anti-Semitism from the Trump administration. I think they care about as much about anti-Semitism as a kitchen cabinet or a spoon. What they are really upset about is just wokeness in general, and universities do have a problem with wokeness. That is a real problem.
Yes, they have a problem with...
When you tell people that drink, oh, I don't drink, they're like, hell yeah, more for me. I like that attitude. Coffee people are not that way. I'm pretty convinced coffee is a multi-level marketing scheme. They're like, hey, good morning, would you like a cup of coffee? And I'm like, no, thank you, I don't drink coffee. And they're like, oh, so you just wake up? So I avoid coffee shops, but I was going to a friend's house and I sent them a text of like, hey, I'm on my way, let me know if I can stop and get anything, right? And then we all send that text, and immediately after we send it, we're like, if they make me fucking stop and get something. And that friend texted me back, 100% iced coffee, which I now understand was that person saying, I 100% want something. That something is iced coffee. But I do not drink coffee, so I thought 100% iced coffee is how you call it. I thought the percentage was in it. Don't fucking laugh! Don't laugh! It made sense to me. I'm like, milk's been doing percentages for decades, you know? You got dumb fucks paying for 2% of milk, where's the other 98%? I started having false memories of being in coffee shops and seeing people being like, Americano, 80-20. I'm standing in line, I finally get to the front of the line. Very nice baristas, like, what can we make for you today, sir? And I was like, 100% iced coffee. And he did nothing. He didn't press a button, he didn't look at his other worker and go, make it! Or whatever He looks at me and he goes, what did you say? And I'm like frazzled, and I'm like, oh, I didn't go hard enough. So I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I want a 100% iced coffee. You fucking idiot. And he goes, sir, I have 0% idea what you're asking for. Because if I give you 100% coffee, it's not iced. And if I give you 100% ice, you have no coffee. What are we doing? And what we decided on, him and I as a team, I would be purchasing a large cup of coffee. I would be purchasing a large cup of ice. I would be purchasing a third empty cup to do the math in. Just take it back to the lab like,
hey, it's okay. It's okay. Take a deep breath. You had a surgery. You've been under anesthesia, but you're okay. We're gonna get you out of here.
What's going on?
Well, you had an event, and we had to operate, but you're gonna be okay.
Why is my rear end killing me?
We had to perform an emergency intracranial rectal removal. And the worst part is, this has been happening a lot. This is the second time you've been in the hospital because your head has been up your ass. I need to ask you something. Are you a Democrat?
Yeah, of course I am.
Okay.
I was in the Union about 20 years ago.
Okay. Oh, slow down. We don't want that head to go back up there, all right? This happens a lot with liberals. Your beliefs and the way you vote affects the way your head relates with your butthole. And it'll just go right up there and block reality.
But we gotta be loyal and no matter what you say.
Whoa, shush. It'll happen right as I'm sitting here. It's not pleasant to watch. So I want you to take a look at this. That is the Constitution. Now look at it, read it, and that's going to affect the way you see the world. Welcome aboard. I'm also going to write you a prescription for a couple of old Ronald Reagan speeches.
Doctor, thanks a lot for coming on. So you spent your life, 50 years working on treatments for cancer. And when you started, it seemed like we were moving in the West toward the elimination of cancer. Smoking was a huge emphasis, get rid of tobacco, and cancer rates will drop. Obviously, smoking does cause cancer, and we got rid of it basically, but cancer rates went up. And that is a very rarely remarked upon mystery that really bothers me. Tell us, since you made billions of dollars selling your companies, but you're still involved in medical research, which I admire. Where are we now with cancer? What are you seeing in cancer rates?
Well, what's really worrisome to me now is not just the rate, but the population in which it's increasing, i.e. the younger people. So we're clearly seeing an increase in certain types of cancer, like pancreatic cancer, ovarian cancer, and we're seeing it, colon cancer, and we're seeing it in younger people.
Just to set a baseline, what's the 10-year survival rate for pancreatic cancer?
It's horrible. I think, if you have pancreatic cancer today, I don't think there is a 10-year survival rate, so to speak.
Yes.
What there is, however, if you have patients who are what we call failed all standard of care, the survival rate is in months. You measure it in 2 months.
Yes. That's certainly my understanding, having watched a lot of people die of it. So advanced pancreatic cancer is a death sentence. Where are you seeing it now?
Well, I got to tell you a really concerning story. It's not only am I seeing it now, I'm seeing it in younger people. And for the first time in my career, when I left UCLA, I was doing all the Whipples, which is a surgery to actually remove most of the pancreas, a very big operation.
You're a surgeon as well.
I'm a surgeon.
Yes.
And I was also doing pancreas transplants for type 2 diabetes and islet cell transplants and stem cell transplants. So I had this diverse activity as a UCLA assistant professor. But I never saw pancreatic cancer in children. And the greatest surprise to me was a 13-year-old with metastatic pancreatic cancer that the family called us to help. And to me, that was not only devastating, it emphasized the idea that we're seeing people with higher incidence of pancreatic cancer and younger. Right now in our clinic, we have 45-year-old, 50-year-old. And what was sad about this young boy, by the time he came to see us, he had exhausted all standards of care. And he came from Butler, Pennsylvania. And all the major medical centers really had exhausted all their therapy. And by the time he came to see us, his body was ridden and he passed away. So seeing cancers now in younger people and almost a rise.
I've got a message for every freedom-hating, flag-burning, censorship-obsessing, woke-washed adult out there. You can't cancel all of us. F you. And also, my new music video, Can't Cancel All of Us, is out right now. So check it out.
Can you tell me a little bit about supply chain? I've heard it's basically impossible to find an American-made drone motor. Is that still the case? Is there a change there? And are you leveraging any of the cool companies that we've talked to, like the Hadrians, the Rangeviews, the 3D printing companies? Like, what do you see as like really beneficial to you?
Motors are still a big challenge in the U.S. I got asked on X the other day, like, oh, are you guys running your own motors? And the answer is no, we're not doing that yet. We definitely want to be part of solving that problem. And, there are some things in the works, but motors have been historically really tough. A lot of US companies are still using Chinese motors because it's not mandated by the government to avoid them. And same thing with cameras, especially low cost sensors. we've seen they're primarily dominated by China. And in our world, in the FPV world, really everything is kind of built on top of architectures that use Chinese chips. So our long time challenge until we kind of finished the work and got onto the Blue UAS list was rebuilding all of these components from the kind of chip level, because you'll look at these open source projects that a lot of like drone racing technology is built off of, and oh, look at that, it's off of a Chinese microcontroller, or like every video receiver for analog FPV in the world uses this Chinese radio module. So you have to get rid of all of that, do all the engineering up from a clean sheet, which has been a big challenge, but we're getting there, and it's great to see these companies that are working on the kind of like fundamental manufacturing challenges. Like that's what I would put Rangeview into the bucket of. Like America needs investment castings, where we're sort of one level up, where we have to be really smart on our component design, but we're not actually making the chips.
Spell philosophy. Spell philosophy. Ain't no way, bro. You 16, he's 17. Y'all juniors and seniors in high school, man. Spell it. Ain't no way. We erase the board. We're going to forget about the other stuff. I'm going to give y'all another chance. Spell philosophy. Mother. Dog. Keep going. I'm curious. I'm curious to see. Come on. Spell philosophy. Yeah. Man. Damn face. Come on. Get out the way. Let me see what y'all spell. Come on. All right. Uh-huh. So that's. Oh, y'all ain't done. Philosophy. That's our final word? Philosophy? Huh? Look at y'all. Man, spell cute, Makai. Spell cute. I'm gonna give you something simple. I ain't even gonna say no cute. That's a fourth grade word, dog. Spell cute. Spell it. Dog. Makai. That don't make no damn sense. That don't make no. I don't know what school you going to when you graduate. I don't know what the hell you going. Y'all going back in grades, boy. You going back to the 9th, 7th, 5th, 6th. You going backwards. Spell two. It's 3 different ways you can spell two. It's 3 different ways. Spell the first 2, Maurice. Spell 2. Nick, dog. Y'all serious? Spell the other 2, Makai. Spell the other 2. Dog. Y'all. Spell the number 2. 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 Get the fuck out the house. Go. Go. Get out. Just go, bro. There ain't no way. Philosophy 2, 22, cute. And y'all think y'all spelled this stuff right? Show ass like a man. You go, bro. Just go. Go ahead. Go. Take the board. Do something. Get out. Motherfuckers gonna go. Y'all go.
Congressman Perry, do you trust Trump's national security team to keep our war plans top secret?
You trust your mother every night to fix your hot pockets and make sure your Game Boy is turned on.
All right, guys, typical front yard in a non-HOA neighborhood. Jim's front yard, where he makes about $7,500 a month. All right, so Jim is a market farmer growing about 50 different varieties of lettuce alone and 50 different other annual vegetables. He feeds about 80 families a week out of his half-an-acre front yard. That includes this front yard and the house to the right. Jim is basically running an 80-person CSA with his buyers club, and also goes to a market in downtown Newport Richey every Tuesday for any other excess produce that's coming out of this garden. Jim spends about 50 to 60 hours a week working in the garden, but walks out his front door and he's at work, doing what he loves, making a living. I should also mention that Jim is 60 years old and does this 100% by himself. All right, grow food, not grass. Let's bring back the Victory Garden.
Welfare man, you're on your candid camera. You are. You got nothing better to do? You jealous? You jealous of the man? Is that it? Jealous loser. No, you're not. You're a communist, anti-American loser. You're jealous of success. That's what you are. Losers, communist, Marin County bums. All of you losers. Go back to Brooklyn. Loser. You're on candid camera. Loser. 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 I don't talk to communists. Yes, you are. You're a loser. Why do you hate Musk? Why do you hate Musk? So what? You're a self-righteous moron. No, I won't be quiet. Who the hell do you think you are, you loser? Yes, I am. You're a nobody, a broken Hulk. Loser. Well, folks, it's bad for my heart condition. I can't stand these people. These are the reason America's dying, because of these self-righteous phonies, these left-wing bastards.
Agenda 21 is kind of a code name for a master plan originated at the United Nations to change the political and economic system of the world to one of total collectivism. And in order to do that, people must not be allowed to have independence. They must be dependent on the state for everything. Otherwise, they won't be easily controlled by the state. That means they can't have private property, mostly. They cannot have land of their own. They have to live in, preferably, high-rise apartments that are provided to them by the state as a benefit, so to speak. Oh, good, we got a free apartment. But these people at the top want all humans to be dependent on the largesse of the state. That means that they don't want anybody living out in the boonies. Anybody that's got a couple of acres of land and his own water supply and can grow his own food and that kind of thing, or have some sheep or some chickens, these people are a threat to the collectivist society, because they aren't going to go to the politicians and say, please feed me, please clothe me, please give me shelter. They tend to be independent. That's the secret behind Agenda 21. They want people out of the country. They want corporations out there growing all the food and that kind of thing, but they don't want anybody living out there, because that way they cannot be controlled. In order to control mankind, we have to get them all into the big cities. We have to rack them up and stack them up, get them dependent on the state for their food, their shelter, their electrical power, their water, everything. That's the dirty secret behind Agenda 21.
Without. Now, how to become? The brain taken count the goats and lambs. Now, just follow the wind blow and count the clouds everywhere. Castle wise, count 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, again, 1, 2, 3. We are peaceful and calm. Don't be angry. Calm down a bit and walk away about our people are loved. Now, don't be angry. We want you to calm down a bit to behave yourself. I know it is hard.
I got bad news for you.
What now?
From now on, I won't be doing any more dishes.
And why is that?
Trump made it illegal for men to compete in women's sports.
Hey, how'd the casino trip go, honey?
Well, let's just say you and the kids should start packing to move into a bigger place.
Oh gosh, really?
Yep, the place is called The Streets.
Evening, sir. Where are you heading this late at night?
I was on my way to a lecture about alcohol and its effects on the human body and smoking and staying out late at night.
Who gives a lecture about that this late at night?
My wife.
Are you heading to the store?
Yeah.
Why don't you pick up some of those pills that'll help you get it up?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Back from the store?
Yep, there you go.
But these are diet pills.
Exactly.
Man, I can't stop thinking about what the doc said.
Yeah, the 6-month left to live thing.
Yeah, I don't know what to do.
Well, have you considered getting married?
Will that make me live longer?
No, but it'll make it the longest 6 months of your life.
You don't start throwing strikes, there's going to be an Amber Alert out for you before the end of this game. Did your dad ever play catch with you when you were younger? Do you have una mas more better in you? I know you're new to our team, but do you always suck this bad, or is it just a special occasion today? Well, that sucked with a capital S and a lot of U's. Seriously, dude, I'm about to just call the police and have you arrested. If your dad ever gets out of rehab, we're gonna have to work on a new pitch called the strike. Dude, I don't know what makes you suck so bad at pitching, but whatever it is, it works. You better figure out when soccer tryouts are. Have you ever thought that you might actually be left-handed? You need some style. You need some pizzazz. I feel like I'm watching a pitching machine out here. No pressure, but if you don't strike this kid out, I'm gonna fill your pockets full of meatballs and throw you in a piranha pond. I know you're only 12, but the high school coach just texted me and you're cut. Dude, you didn't just fall out of the crummy pitcher tree. You were dragged entirely through the I suck at pitching forest.
I want to put this lightly, but I mean, we're getting killed out there, and I think it's pretty much all your fault.
Well, you win some and you lose some. Unless you're on the mound, we lose them all. Yeah, your dad said that you sucked at pitching, but you were way worse. Well, at least your mom still loves you.
Have you guys ever heard of the term a canary trap? See, a canary trap is a method that intelligence agencies and governments and really corporations and anybody who thinks that they have a leaking problem will use to try to identify who a potential leaker is. Essentially what they do is they provide little bits and pieces of information to specific individuals and try to identify what inaccurate parts of that information make it into the media. And in that way, they can trace it back to who the canary is, hence canary trap. And because we know canary traps are used quite regularly in the Trump administration to identify leakers, for that reason, I'm not yet willing to accept the public narrative that the Signal Chat scandal was an accident. And yes, I know that National Security Advisor Mike Waltz is already accepting responsibility because that's what good leaders do. If an accident happens under their leadership, a good leader accepts responsibility for it. But when I recognize that this person, Jeffrey Goldberg, is the one who was accidentally added to the Signal Chat, and then I started paying attention to who the aide that worked for Mike Waltz was that did the adding, kind of looks to me like maybe something else is going on here. I mean, think of it this way. If you're running a canary trap and you want to find out whether or not you have a leaker in your midst, and then suddenly this guy shows up in a Signal Chat, Jeffrey Goldberg, the guy who wrote the article lying about Donald Trump and the suckers and losers comments that were made, and was one of the very first journalists in 2016 to try to accuse Donald Trump of being a Russian agent, that guy, he just accidentally, randomly shows up. So the next obvious question you ask is, okay, so who is the person that accidentally added Jeffrey Goldberg to the Signal Chat? Well, come to find out, it's this guy. His name's Alex Wong, who was recently promoted to the national security team and has a very long history of working for Republicans. But not just any Republicans. The kind of swampy, Washington elite Republicans. The Bush State Department. The Romney-Ryan campaign. Tom Cotton, the swampies. But then you notice something else. You see right up there where it talks about the law firm that Alex Wong is associated with? Covington and Burling, LLP. The same Covington and Burling who, Eric Holder and John Brennan and Victoria Nuland and all of the rest of the radical left are associated with? You know, the same one who was retained by Act Blue and who one of the Democracy Forward leaders came from? Yeah, that's right. The staffer who accidentally added Jeffrey Goldberg to a Signal chat is associated with Covington Burling, the law firm that Donald Trump just signed an executive order to strip away their security clearances. So why am I not willing to accept the official public narrative from the administration on this? Because if I was going to run a canary trap, this is exactly what it would look like.
She's gonna save me. No one's coming to save you, Your Highness. My lord, there's a problem. Told ya. What?
Don't worry, Blake, I'll save you! He's gotta be strong and he's gotta be fast and he's gotta be fresh.
Get him out of here! Princess, I'm over here!
He's gotta be sure and he's gotta be soon and he's gotta be larger than life, larger than life.
Remember to always listen to your parents. I will, Princess. I will. She's too strong. Princess!
So, Bill Burr went on The View and claimed that Elon Musk is trying to trash planet Earth. First of all, Bill, your net worth is $20 million. So you've earned the right to shut the f up about how difficult and crappy the world is. Second of all, where have you been lately? Does that giant wall around your Beverly Hills mansion prevent Wi-Fi from reaching you? Because just take a look at what's going on. We got grown adults running around identifying as chairs, trillions of dollars of government fraud being exposed. We got billionaires flying celebrities to private islands to hang out with children. Who knows? You might have been there. Mandated vaccinations, inflation, war, and Joe Biden is thinking about getting back into politics. Earth is trashed already, Bill. We're f***ed. And while you're sitting around with Whoopi Goldberg wiping your tears with $100 bills, I'm going to be dropping a brand new music video this Friday at 9 a.m. Hope you're ready, Bill. You f***ing idiot.
What does it mean to be a mogul today? I know what the classic definition of the term means, thinking about people like David Geffen, Lew Wasserman, and Walt Disney, these power brokers that had the type of influence that only a few people in the entertainment landscape had, but they were able to build not just their companies, but the entire industries that they worked in and help shape the future of what they looked like. That's very different today in the world of the internet and the lower entry barriers and everything that exists. And of course, there are people that have built their own empires and don't have to answer to nearly as many people as the gatekeepers that lived before. But on the other hand, there's still huge influence from the tech platforms and others that have shifted in many ways what the definition of a mogul is. And that's going to be the topic and the focus for this episode. We're joined by my friend, who's the founder and CEO of High Bar Media, WebBar. He recently launched a podcast series called Media Moguls, where he did a deep dive into someone that is the ultimate definition of this word, and that's Ted Turner. So we're going to talk a little bit about Ted, and we're also going to talk about some of the people from yesterday, today, and in the future that we think personify this word. And we're going to dig into the tech, the social media, and all of the levers that have shaped what it really means today to not just succeed in entertainment, what it means to be a mogul. And we make some predictions about who we think will be the next folks up. So hope you enjoy this one. Let's dive in.
Wow, beautiful. No hesitation there, huh? Well done, Charlie. Did it come to the same pocket? Yes, perfect.
What has happened to this place? I don't recognize it anymore. It used to be so fun and special. What is life worth living for? The dream is dead, our land is gone. There's a hole in my heart and I can't go on. There are too many minorities at my water park. This was our land, our dream, and they've taken it all away. They just keep coming and coming. Minorities. I tried to go and tell the police, but even the authorities are minorities at my water park. There's no place for me to sit anymore, and the lines just keep getting crazier. There are Mexicans all around me. The lazy river has never been lazier. It's a 40-minute wait to go down one slide, and the instructions are in Spanish on the zip line ride. Just do it in English. There are too many minorities. Too many at my water park. Somebody do something. Where did they all come from? Why can't they leave this land? Such a tragedy. Feel bit like dying. We live the other way too long. We got to change our priorities and get all these minorities out of my water park. Minorities, Mexicans and Asians, black people. I think I even saw Native Americans. God, I'm asking, please get all of these minorities out of my water park. My water park.
One of the things that Brett Weinstein has explained to me is that aluminum is the concept is that giving someone a shot with aluminum in it and triggering an immune response, if they're eating certain foods during that time, they can then develop an allergy to those foods, like certain people with peanuts and various things like that used to be very common for people to eat, but then a bunch of people developed like pretty severe food allergies. And he makes this connection that he believes it's a reasonable connection to say that there's something.
Absolutely. Oh, 100%. And it's not just something he's dreamed up. Again, provable medical literature in the book, Dissolving Illusions. The physiology, the pathology is known. It's very well known that the vaccines that have aluminum in them skew the immune system. So,
terrifying discovery yesterday at a Texas gas station women's restroom has all of us wondering what is actually going on. Yesterday, a woman stopped to use the restroom at an Exxon gas station near Texas A&M campus and found this locking device that locks with two large metal bars at the woman's restroom door. However, this locking mechanism is not on the inside of the door to keep people safe on the inside. This locking mechanism is on the outside of the women's bathroom door. On further investigation, it's not on the men's restroom. It is only on the women's restroom door. So if you lock this device, anyone inside of the bathroom is effectively trapped. And the woman who filmed this made sure to walk to the men's restroom to prove it was not on the outside of the men's bathroom door. She even closed the women's bathroom door and then locked it to see if it would actually lock, if it was a functioning lock, and it did. And you can see that this looks like an industrial grade locking mechanism. If you know any college student near or around this area in Texas, please share this to warn them. And all of us need to be on the lookout when going to public restrooms that could potentially lock us inside without us knowing. People in the comments were kind enough to share the exact location of this Exxon near this college campus.
$10 seatbelt ticket becomes a fucking ordeal. I like this one. If this is the black lesbian I'm thinking of, the way she's told to get out of the car and the way she's like, I'm going to be thinking about this for the next hour.
Hi there.
WRTs with the Racine County Sheriff's Office stuff because your seatbelt isn't on, and we're actually out. You put it on when we were pulling up behind you. I watched you.
That's not true.
And he looked
Body was fully leaned forward, sir, when you took the turn
I
on.
watched you put it on. We're not going to argue about a $10 seatbelt ticket.
Hey, it's right here.
Okay, driver's license and insurance, okay?
I'm not giving you nothing. This is not.
Driver's license and insurance, sir. You're going to make this more difficult than it has to be. Your driver's license and insurance, sir.
Do you see this?
Sir, do you want to be forcibly removed?
You were not wearing a seatbelt. That's not true. I have this on.
Driver's license
That's a
and
lesbian.
insurance, sir.
Are you planning on calling us today?
No, you're not going to kill
Oh, no, that's a different guy. Sorry.
Oh, that's great to know, okay? You were not wearing a seatbelt when you drove past me. We saw you putting it on while we were behind you. You can argue this all day long and make this even worse for yourself. Otherwise, just give us your ID and the insurance, sir. What do you want my money?
Driver's license and insurance, sir. You're making a big driver's license and insurance, sir. You're making a bigger deal out of this than it has to be.
For my seatbelt thing?
Yes. Yep.
Why? I have my seatbelt.
You have a
on.
traffic violation.
Yeah.
Your seatbelt was not on, sir, so can you have your driver's license and insurance?
With your body camera, I have my seatbelt on. They're
Sir.
running, right? Them people.
I found
Because I
it.
watched you put them on,
You
sir.
just-
Now please put them on, or I'm going to ask you to step out of the vehicle.
I'm at the point where I would just
When
say,
I
you
do
know
so,
what,
it's a
you're
law.
right. I'll just go back to the car.
You win.
Yeah, I might have just threw in $10. It's all right. I'm out of
Oh,
here.
I thought you didn't have your seatbelt on. Sorry about that,
We
sir.
should all start doing that. Just fuck it.
Yeah, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Film me driving past you at like 60 and see if you see my seatbelt.
You know what?
Why am I arguing?
No, he was making a turn. If you listened, if you took the shit out of your ears and listened,
He's probably
he was
saw the
making a
buckle.
turn.
Just tell him you saw the buckle hanging there.
All right.
Yeah, you got to say you seen a
I like how he's fighting over $10 and he ends up ripping up about $500 when he has his temper tantrum. His wife is cool to look at too. She's so broken down. She's just like, my husband's a
Where they
fucking
coming
asshole.
from? Fucking Arby's?
Yeah, no, probably Golden Corral.
Yeah, Grumpy Town, where he's the mayor.
They were getting scratch off.
I'm literally just coming from work.
Scratch off and scrapple.
Go ahead.
Full order. And if I have to, I can forcibly remove you from the vehicle, sir. All right?
He broke his glasses.
Yeah. You're acting like a child. I want your driver's license and your insurance.
Here's everything I have. Here's my money.
You're acting like a child, sir.
Here's my card. Here's everything.
Your driver's license, sir. Hand it to me.
Take my money. Take this too. Take that.
Your
All
driver's
right,
license,
thank
sir.
you very much. I'll take that. Keep going.
He's ripping up his money
Obviously,
right
he's
now.
having a bit of a nervous breakdown. You should just reach in there and give him a big kiss.
You're just destroying all my stuff. Ruining my holiday.
Yeah.
Using me as something I'm doing. Ripping up the money. I spent $500 for my fucking family.
That's great. Driver's license, sir. Are you intoxicated, sir?
Bullshit.
What kind of drugs are you on, sir?
Well, here's a, you need this too. We'll just rip that up too.
What kind of drugs are you on, sir? Your driver's license.
Go get it. Take whatever
I'm
you
not
want.
going into your vehicle, sir.
You know what would have been a better answer to this? Hear me out, guys. What do you think? You could have said, "Hey, do you own this car?" And if he did,
Yeah, the
he could go
registration.
back
Yeah,
and
just
go
write the
into the
registered
car and get the thing like that. Write him out the ticket, give him the ticket, and be on the way.
And give him one for not presenting the insurance card on top of it.
You would have thought they would have ran it before they got out of the car, but
You're right.
or they
That's
might
I
have
know if you were a
do
cop,
that.
you would have done that.
Your driver's license, please.
Rip all this up too. Got enough down. Here, take this.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so you can take my money. You can take my money.
Remain in the vehicle, sir. I'll be back
Take
up
my
with
money.
you, okay?
Look, I have my seatbelt on. You take my fucking money. That's bullshit.
everything.
My seatbelt's on and they're accusing me of something. That's bullshit. You can't ever enjoy life anymore around here without being harassed and accused of something. I have my fucking seatbelt on.
I would love to have a conversation with that wife.
I do hate seatbelt.
Ma'am, can you step out of the vehicle, please?
I think they changed it where
Are you getting tired of this marriage?
certain states in certain cities you can't pull people over just for seatbelt.
Well, that's how they got the laws passed. They said it was a secondary offense, and then within a year they made it a primary offense.
Well, what it is cops were tossing cars, and then this manual agree with me here. They were tossing cars, finding guns, finding drugs. What you stopped for? You had no seatbelt on.
Oh, this one's the best. Your license plate light was out.
Wow.
You have to have a license plate light. What do you want me to tell you, man?
Well, my license plate was bent last week when I got stopped from Westchester County coming up here.
Yeah, and it wasn't even bent.
No.
Yeah, no, I don't believe in seatbelt laws.
But you have cop stickers. Oh, you weren't in your normal car, right? You were in your
I was
wife's
in my
car.
wife's car. And meanwhile, I know that cop from the gym, and when you meet him at the gym, he goes, I don't do nothing all day. I never pull anybody over.
He pulled you over.
What about me?
He pulled me over. I said, this guy's full of shit.
Okay, does that seatbelt one go anywhere? I don't think so. But check your text.
You
Sean.
said he rips up the tickets, no?
He
Or that, or
Should I keep going?
That was
Yeah,
just your-
keep going. Let's see.
That's exactly what's happening. Yep, $135 fucking glass break-in. I will just start dumping on my blood right now. Give him that.
She probably is driving him to this point of.
Probably.
I have my seatbelt on. These people pull me over and they pull up on me and say I don't have my seatbelt on. It's right here. I can see it.
What state
I
is
can
that?
taste it. Do you realize how you're acting right now? Irrational. It's upsetting to me. Upsetting to you that you drove past me without a seatbelt? That's a crock of bullshit. You know that. Don't give me that. Okay.
He's tearing up cash from his car and throwing it over.
It's a funny
I have my
episode.
seatbelt on, and you're giving me a ticket for my seatbelt being on.
Now, if he threw that money out, I would wait, turn my,
Yeah.
turn my thing off. I would
tape
pick
it
that
back
shit
Go
up.
to Staples, get some sellotape.
Littering.
I'd be going to Dunkin' Donuts, handing him a fucking taped
I'll
up
tell you
bill.
what, like, funny. I was in Wyoming one time, coming across country, and there's like 30 or 40 of us in the pack, and we got pulled over. There's one cop, so by himself, I couldn't believe it. Takes all 40 licenses. He goes back to his car. 2 other cars show up. The only motherfucker that had a problem with their license was me. And I had just come home from prison in 2011, and I had back child support. So they just the support collection suspend your license. So I go to court. I give my ex-wife $9,000 to get me out of the arrears to go. So they give me the paper. In New York, they give you a letter. It says you've complied with the court order. They reinstate your license. So I give the trooper, there's a Wyoming State Trooper. I give him that, and he goes, "Who's Odell?" And I go, "Me." He's like, "You got to come back over here by the car with me." I'm like, "Oh fuck." So he goes, "Your license is suspended." I said, "Yeah, but I gave you the paperwork from New York. It's cleared up." He goes, "Yeah, but my computer says it's suspended." He goes, "Now here's what we could do. You can pay your ticket now in lieu of a court appearance for $425 cash."
Or you can give up one of the
Or you
Hells
can
Angels.
impound your bike and you go get a DAT. I was like, so I looked in my pocket, I got like $280 on me, so I had to pass the hat around. I said, "Wait till we get to the next gas stop." I was like, "Can I just go to the exit, go to the gas station?" They're like, "No."
All the Hells
We need
Angels
it
said,
cash.
all right, later, Maddie.
So everybody took a collection.
Well, I mean, I needed like 200 something bucks. When I got to the gas station, I took the DAT and took it out. Gave the people the money back.
So you think it was just extortion and they were taking the money and pocketing it?
I think a lot of those towns are fucking.
They give you a receipt.
$430 cash.
There's no
in
fucking.
lieu of court.
There's no fucking way, man. There's no way that that's just on a racket.
Yeah, that's a scam. They're
Like if I
stealing
didn't have
it.
cash or I was by myself and I didn't have enough cash, they were impounding my bike and bringing me to the
Oh,
station.
now they probably got the.
That's very Costa Rican. That's very.
Yeah, you tap it.
No, he said, "Bro, just fucking cash at me.
just
Fucking
Apple Pay that
send,
shit.
Send me a Zelle."
Yeah.
So
Rip up your money.
What they do is they take your
Trooper gives you his own personal zone.
they take your license in lieu of the ticket to make sure you pay it. They take your license
Right.
out there.
Oh, you mean your actual physical
Yeah,
license?
because I remember going to a fucking what do you call it, Hertz rental agency. The guy in front of us arguing. He goes, "No, my license. This is my license." He goes, "The police took it from me because I was speeding," and I was like, "I can't believe they do that shit out here."
What up, y'all? Here, July here. Thank you so much. The Ripper vs. ISOM #3 just hit $500,000 in total sales. That's the first big milestone. So that means soon we will be revealing some covers for Saoirse #1 as well as the next installment of Yaira. That'll be soon. So keep it locked. We also announced, which had nothing to do with the milestones, Rippaverse Roundtable. It's a brand new stream that we're going to be doing every single week on Monday at 6 p.m. Central on Rippaverse's YouTube channel. It'll be myself as well as a bunch of different panelists that are members of the Rippaverse. So artists, everyday team members, all that good stuff. We're going to be talking everything Rippaverse. It's not a stream where we'll be talking about other random things, but it's just a team Rippaverse. No, we're going to be nerding out, talking about Rippaverse stuff. So be there, 6 p.m. Central, every Monday on the Rippaverse channel. Again, y'all, thank you so much for the continued support for the Rippaverse. Go grab ISO #3. You can get this hat right here. Also, go grab Zaylin. Also, go grab the Great War Separation issue #2. Thank you guys so much.
The shittest dog breed, the Belgian Malinois. This dog wakes up every morning like it's got a fucking 12-hour shift at MI5. If it's not doing advanced parkour off your furniture, it's digging a tunnel to shitting Narnia in your garden. The Belgian Malinois is like if someone crossed a crackhead with a Navy SEAL and then injected it with a litre of pure caffeine. If you own one of these, you either need to be a police officer, a military operative, or just completely off your fucking rocker. Because this isn't a dog, it's a furry missile that will destroy your house, your sanity, and any sense of peace you once had. They don't walk, they fucking launch. You clip a lead on a Malinois and suddenly you're paragliding through the high street at 30 miles an hour. Yeah, they're smart, but not in a cute, fun way. They're smart in a figure out how to open doors, steal your wallet, and commit tax fraud kind of way. You leave the house for 5 minutes, and they've already learned how to drive your car. You think you own a Malinois? Nah, your Malinois owns you. Training? Don't even bother unless you've got the patience of a monk and the fitness of an Olympic athlete. These dogs will make you feel like you've enlisted in the fucking military just by trying to teach them sit. Miss one training session and suddenly your dog is swinging from the ceiling fan plotting world domination. The Belgian Malinois doesn't want to be your pet. It wants to be your commanding officer. Now go away.
On March 24th, 2022, my son packed his bags and left my house to go to his dad's house. And that was the last time he was here. Let's talk about what happened to him. He was going on vacation with his dad and his family. When I woke up the next day, I saw that he had texted me at 3:41 in the morning, and it said, "Mother, I love you," which wasn't unusual because Jordan would stay up late playing on his PlayStation. I texted him right away at 6 a.m. and he didn't respond. I went on with my day. I sent him another text that said, "Are you okay?" And I had this overwhelming feeling that I should drive to his dad's house. But I didn't. I drove home and I sent him another text that just said, "Jordan." And he still didn't respond. And Jordan always responded to me. I texted Jordan's dad and said, "Is Jordan at home?" And 9 minutes later, he called me. And all he said to me was, "Jordan's gone." And I said, "No, no, no." And my legs went numb. And at that point, we had to disconnect because the paramedics and police were arriving. He was being contacted by an alleged girl on social media, just reaching out saying, "Hey, we have some of the same friends in common. Where do you go to school?" Just normal kid conversation. It went on for 6 hours. Then it came down to send me a picture of yourself. And once he shared an image with them, that was it. They demanded $1,000 from him, or they were going to send this to all of his friends, followers, family. He didn't have $1,000. He had $300, and they were like, "Fine, send that." But it wasn't enough, and this kept going. This is called financial sextortion. When Jordan said, "I'm going to unalive myself," they said, "Good, do that now, or we're going to make you do it." And they made him believe that that was the only choice he had in those moments. He begged them to stop. He asked them, "Why are you doing this to me?" And I can't imagine what that poor kid went through in the last hours of his life. This is one of the pictures that I held up while I spoke about my son and what this did to me. The courtroom was packed wall to wall. The judge sentenced both brothers to 17.5 years in a federal prison. And a lot of people have said they disagree, they think it should be more. And I'm going to tell you what I think about it. There is someone being held accountable for what happened to my son. Given the circumstances and that these people were located all the way in Nigeria and they were able to bring them here and they are going to serve time here, that is success. I've had multiple families and kids reach out to me that this is happening to them. Go and get your kids right now and talk to them about financial sextortion. And if it does happen to them, that they can come to you or another trusted adult for help. I can't save Jordan, but hopefully his story can save another child and another family from going through what we have been going through.
I do feel very good still about my vote for Trump, in the sense that had we and I'd be really curious for your take on this specifically. Up until Trump's election, I feel quite confident that all of the presidents in my lifetime were directly acting on behalf of this shadow government. That most of them were even groomed throughout their entire political career for this shadow government, and enacted direct shadow government policies throughout their entire career, up to Biden being literally not even there, like maybe even dead. We don't know, or at least I don't know. And so Trump, I still am of the belief that Trump does not, in my mind, seem to be acting directly on behalf of the shadow government, but rather seems to be acting as a businessman that grew up around the shadow government, that is easily swayed by wealth and money, easily swayed by deal making, easily swayed by big words and sexy big numbers like Larry Ellison with like his big talk of fucking AI bullshit. Which often makes it so that Trump is acting on behalf of them, but I don't see him as aligning directly with him. And a lot of the actions he's taken, like dismantling USAID, like going after like Doge, and just dismantling all these sort of like integrated parts of our government that are like objectively tools for this deep state or shadow government. He's doing a lot of things that do not benefit the shadow government just on face value. But then he's also being manipulated into doing other things, or he's willingly doing other things that are on their behalf. And so what I'm saying is that I'd still rather be in the media environment post-Trump as opposed to a Kamala media environment. Because I can't even imagine where we would be if Kamala was our president right now. But I'd be really curious for your take on that whole perspective, because I think we disagree on this, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, so I think it's totally bullshit, man. Like not against you, just I can't buy that. I think it's respectfully, I think it's naive to think that with all of Trump's connections that he's not. I think, well, for one, you're correct that he's driven by ego. I think that's true, and that's a great way to manipulate a person. A person who is driven by ego, as much as people want to give Trump credit for like he's the Teflon Don who doesn't bow down to anybody and everybody bows down to him. And sure, I'll give him credit in certain areas of posturing that way. But we sure do see him bow down to Israel. I think it's debatable who's in charge, whether it's Elon or him. Obviously, the Adelsons. I want to talk about Peter Thiel in a little bit and Doge.
Yeah,
so I'm going to hold my thoughts on that in just for a couple minutes. But in general, that perspective, I do have an immense difficulty trying to believe that. Now, that doesn't mean that that we're not in some like new territory and haven't been with Trump. I believe like, without being able to prove all the pieces, but I've been saying this since he first popped on the scene in 2016, that Trump is the New World Order, deep state, shadow government's literal Trump card. I don't think that is like, a mistake, that that phrase even exists. I think that he is here for this reason, to serve this purpose, to sort of, astroturf or collect the real freedom, truth, conservative, libertarian-ish movement and bring a bunch of people in there, because despite you having a more nuanced take even though I do disagree with what you just said, your take is still more nuanced than the Trump supporters who everything that we just talked about prior to this, you're willing to say, yeah, that doesn't look that good. They're going to just keep saying, well, no, who cares? There are absolutely cultish Trump members. I know that you see them out there as well. And I think it's worth, just pointing that out, that they're definitely, and I think in a very dangerous way, not to say that the other side doesn't have their own cults. Obama was probably the biggest left-wing Democrat cult we saw. I don't think Biden really had that same kind of thing. It was more of like a motivation by hatred of Trump.
Plug your ears and pretend it's not this bad.
Yeah, just like, okay, well, it's at least it's not Trump, but that's kind of the whole thing. I even see in the comments here just saying like, imagine if Kamala had won. And I think it's just such a low level of thinking, not to say that this is the position you're taking, but when somebody criticizes Trump and the only response somebody has is, it isn't like to say, well, let's debate this point about Israel, or about Maha, or about the vaccines, or about what have you. It's just to say, at least it's not Kamala. Like, and that I think was by design. This is how this system, how the pyramid of power operates, that they create kind of enemies to set up only to knock them down, So for the last couple of years, it's been like, and there has been some truth that the left is going hardcore into transgenderism and open borders and DEI and all this stuff. And so you build that up, and then all Trump has to do is come in and kind of be the opposite of it. Great. Okay. He did some executive orders about transgender sports and, men and women's sports. And I know a lot of people celebrated it. I think that's a common sense thing. But that also is very easy. It doesn't really require much political capital to do that, in the same way that freeing Ross Ulbricht, which is something I celebrate and have fought for since the day Ross was locked up. I'm grateful that happened. I'm so grateful every time I see Ross posting on Twitter, like at the Grand Canyon and at the beach and stuff like that. Trump had a role in that. But I also think, again, it's not a move that cost him a lot of effort or time or money or anything like that. But then I look at things like, just one example, giving the Panama Canal or helping, supporting Panama Canal being taken by Larry Fink and BlackRock. And I see the Trump supporter as well. It's better that we have it, not China. And that's kind of a whole other side conversation about collectivism and people identifying with the country or the politicians like we did that. Well, I didn't bomb anybody. I'm not going to necessarily benefit if the US government allows BlackRock to bring in, take control of a couple ports in the Panama Canal. But people really identify with Trump, so they deflect any negative criticisms, and then something they see as positive, they sort of talk about it or maybe even believe that they're benefiting in some way, even if it's not necessarily inherently true. So I just think that the control grid has set up these clear false binaries, and Trump represents something new, like where you've got a lot of the movement. I mean, I know you've been on InfoWars a lot recently. I shared today on my Twitter a clip from myself on InfoWars back in 2012. I was on there in 2011, 2012, 2013, right around the time I started talking about Trump and, being critical of him. The InfoWars invites stopped coming. And as you know, a lot of people have left InfoWars over the years because of things that they saw with Alex, David Knight, Aaron and Melissa Dykes, Kurt Nimmo, so many others who I think are principled people who's just kind of got sick of what they were seeing as like a blind spot in the InfoWars crew. To me, that's emblematic of not only a section of independent media, I'll call it mainstream alternative media as Ike calls it, but also just some of the audience that no matter what, they're just going to stand by their man. They're going to stand by him. And I think that's really dangerous.
Like when you get married, you're a guy, you get a little helper in the car. I love my little helper in the car. She knows everything about driving. It's very convenient for me. But sometimes I get confused. See, I don't know how I get anywhere without my helper in the car. I'd probably be bouncing off trees and buildings and stuff, but she's there to help. Like, she tells me when the light changes colors and everything. It's very convenient and helpful. Like, it's green. Thank you, Albert. Because I was confused. I didn't know. Thanks, Captain Prism. She's very helpful in the car for me. I always know how fast I'm going with my helper.
Cyan, can you tell me about the Diamond Age?
Oh my gosh, yes. It's my favorite book. It's by Neil Stephenson. And I remember the first time I read this book, if you pick it up and you try to read it, the very first 10 pages or so, there's this character that's so annoying that I couldn't get past the first 10 pages. And then my husband was like, hey, he dies. And I'm like, when? It was like by like page 11. If you could just get it through, if you can get through this, I think his name's Bud. Yeah. He's a horrible character with like a skull gun attached to his head.
Yes.
But once you get past that, Neil Stephenson, one of the reasons why he's one of my favorite authors is he's a historian, first and foremost. And so he predicts the future by going deep into the past and understanding historically what the trends have been. And you can determine how the future will play out based off of that. And so one of the things that he predicted, among many things, like in Snow Crash, the book that he wrote, he predicted Meta, he predicted VR, He predicted Second Life, and there was a company called There.com and virtual reality, period. And then in the Diamond Age, he predicts an AI future where there's a little girl who gets a book and it's indistinguishable from an iPad. And this book basically teaches her to adulthood. And so you can imagine a future where, scarcity, we live in a world of abundance. So the other thing in Diamond Age is everything is manufactured and 3D printed and on a level where everything is perfect. So if everything's perfect, the thing that becomes valuable is human innovation and human thought and human artistry. So while everybody's worrying about how we're going to mass produce art and music will be, and code and all of these things are going to be created by AI, the artisan is always going to be able to create that desk that you're at. You know, a piece of art, a piece of music that's original from the human mind is always going to stand out as being different. And so I think that human innovation and human ingenuity and things made with human hands are just going to become incredibly valuable. So I based a lot of my investment decisions over the past, probably over 10 years based off of Neil Stephenson's work.
Yeah.
And so I'm a huge fan of his, and I'm going to be on a panel with him coming up. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
Frauds. You are all frauds. And you're going to get exposed. I'm telling you, one by one, you're going to get exposed because you're pissing me off now, okay? I spent all of 2024 having to fight you guys. You're like disgusting little goblins. You operate all in the dark. You lie. You lie like some people breathe, genuinely. These people lie like I breathe. It's just natural. It's just like their lungs expand and a lie comes out. And there's a network of them, and Meghan McCain and Ben Dominic have been a part of that network forever, okay? Everyone knows who these neocons are, who want to keep Americans drummed up, go to war. These people who can't fight the wars, they cry when someone points out accurately that they're clinically obese. They can't fight the wars, but your sons and daughters better fight the wars, guys. God forbid you have a person on a platform telling you, no, this is stupid. We don't need to be involved in Bibi Netanyahu's Middle East BS and expansion policies. Okay, they don't have the people, so they want you to be the people that go die for it and are trying to marry you to those ideas in the classroom, on podcasts, via the media. And because their relationship and your trust in the media has been fractured, they now have to work on trying to fracture your trust in people like me and Tucker Carlson. This is the new vibe. He sounds like an Iranian propagandist when he says don't die in Iran. When he says that obviously no person should send their kids to die in the Middle East because this has been our policy, our flatline policy for the last decades, and nothing good has come of it. Literally nothing good has come of it. They can't even pretend anything good has come of it. Look around, look at your streets, look at your country. Is your country cleaner? Is your country better for having fought Israel's wars for decades? Oh, that's anti-Semitic.
Check this out. So this woman has decided that this book her kid got is not acceptable. What is with this fucking me going black when the screen is black?
There's a filter or whatever on yours, on your monitor. We figured it out the other day.
Oh, so you're not seeing this?
No, we don't see it, and it's because there's black on the screen. It like adjusts on your monitor.
Oh, okay. So it's just me.
Yes,
all right.
just you. Okay.
I don't mind if I suffer. I just don't want my people to suffer. I'm like Jesus in that sense.
All right.
So right here it says physical touch, feeling or expressing love through physical touch and accessibility, including kissing, cuddling, holding hands, and sex.
Stop. Kissing, cuddling, holding hands. Those come up later. Kissing, cuddling, holding hands. He says he's okay with these shortly. I don't know if, does the text above the tweet say what age this is? I don't want 12-year-old kids kissing.
8th grade.
8th grade, so that's 12. All right, so I guess 13-year-olds can neck at a party if everything's consensual, obviously. But are you comfortable with 12-year-olds smooching? I don't like it. Anyway, sorry, go ahead. Cuddling. 12-year-old boys don't want to cuddle girls.
That's probably what you're referring to.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is what I'm referring to. Do you want to talk to me about this? About why that's on the paper?
Sure. So I didn't write this.
Oh, but you gave it to them.
I did give it to them.
You did give it to them.
And this was something that when I was reading it, I honestly glazed over it.
Okay.
A student pointed out to me today, and how I handled it.
Hold on, stop. You're 100% responsible for what you hand over to children. You know what happens at the border when I was delivering CDs up to Cargo Records, picking them up from our American distributors, and I had a Butthole Surfer CD and an Anal Cunt CD, boxes of them? I had to explain to the border guard what I was doing. I'm responsible. I'm bringing it over. You have to vet everything you give the kids, obviously. What if there's you might accidentally slip them a gay porn mag? Oh, sorry, I glazed over the gay porn part. Not acceptable. Just as bad, I would argue. Like, as far as what the kid gets, it's what the kid gets. So I don't care if you wrote sex and handed it to a kid or didn't look and handed it to a kid. The kid's still getting sex. No.
Because it came to me as like alarming too, because I obviously don't want them talking about or thinking about sex, though I think the other ones are fine. What did I say to the students today? I said,
Can I have that copy?
yeah, you totally can.
Thank you.
I told them, I said,
Yes.
they came over to me pointing it out as they thought it was like funny or a joke, and I essentially said to them, I was like, okay, well that is a form of physical touch, and I just kind of left it at that. I didn't want to dive into any further.
Not good
than
enough. Don't have sex. That's what you say.
Tell me what you are thinking, because like I don't want to I'm not trying to come across like that's something like I'm promoting to my students. We're doing creative writing.
Okay.
We're creating characters.
You're creating characters.
And by understanding the different ways they have guards, the different ways they show love, the different ways, the different personality types they have. That's what this is.
So they should build a character that maybe has sex with another character?
No, that's not what I'm implying at all.
Just stop again. Why are you doing this? Why should 12-year-olds be taking creative writing? For what purpose? Should creative writing even exist in school? It's creative. Do it on your own fucking time. Go ahead.
Then why is it in here?
So, would it be all right if I give you my honest opinion on this?
No.
Okay. So, my opinion is that it's not my place to teach or discuss sex in school.
Good, correct.
But I don't think it's inappropriate to make the connection that sex is a form of love. I guess that's where because I think there is a really negative culture surrounding sex, and I think one thing not that
That's a red flag. I've noticed pedos, they always talk about how the biggest problem with children and sex is the stigma. That's the reason it fucks them up so much, is the cultural stigma. But it's actually a beautiful thing. And young children, prepubescent children do have the capability to be sexual. Don't fucking clip that out of context. That's the kind of shit they say. And that seems to be what he's leaning towards. And no, don't tell 12-year-olds that sex is a reasonable way to love. Because now when that old pervert is trying to touch him in his swimsuit area, well, my teacher did say that this is a form of love. No, it's not. Sex should not even be remotely on your radar before puberty.
I would ever teach this, but my personal view is that by having a more open discussion about it as a society, even if it's just a mention of yes, when two people love each other, they have sex. And which is, I didn't say that to them. It's just the word sex was on a sheet.
But
right?
this implies it.
Right.
So I don't see how you're I didn't teach it, but I gave them a sheet that they read, that they learn from.
Okay.
So explain how those two don't go together. How you're not.
He's completely gone back on his word. He said, I don't know. I just glazed over. I don't know how they got there. But I do believe everything on the paper. All right. Well, we're back to square one. Fuck you.
Teaching it, but you gave them the sheet that implies that.
I don't think it's a leap of judgment to assume that when two people love each other, they have sex.
What I'm trying to express to you is it was brought to your attention and you glazed over it.
Right, because I didn't want to make it a bigger deal than it needed to be. A student comes to me.
Wait a minute. He's changing his shit now. Now he's saying I glazed over it on purpose. That's not what glazed over means. Glazed over means you didn't notice. Go ahead.
About sex, I don't want to shame them for that. I didn't want to even get into a discussion about it. I simply was just well, yes, that is a form of physical touch, and then moved on.
So my question is, if I know you're I didn't write this. Did you read this full thing when you said you glazed over it?
Yeah, I've read it before. I've created my own characters based off of it in my own writings.
Okay.
Oh, that doesn't sound very glazed, does it? I use it as a template for all my creative writing.
Red flags raised. These are 8th grade kids. Some of these girls haven't even gone through puberty.
Most of them.
Some of them have, some of them haven't. I don't know if this is appropriate that we maybe I could just edit this myself and take out physical touch, maybe hugging someone or standing close to them, and maybe be more nuanced, like Jane Austen is in her writing, right? She's very nuanced.
Sure.
And it's not very explicit. To me, this is much more explicit. I don't enjoy writing anyway.
Wait,
that's
Jane Austen
explicit.
isn't a writer. That's a character, right? Isn't that Emily Bronte? Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that there are books taught in the state of Utah and taught like even in our district that are more explicit with sex than that. I do apologize. I do want to say it was something that when I looked over it, in my mind and my personal worldview, didn't raise a red flag, though I understand from what you're saying that for some students and some parents it would. So I definitely should have taken that into consideration. So here's what I'd like to ask you is, at this point, I'd like to know what you think we should do going forward, because these have
Stop.
already...
You know, by the way, Emily Bronte is a writer. I was wrong. At this point, it's just like, am I going to get fired? Are you going to make this worse for me? I started with a lie that I forgot, and she can't get him fired. I was on Mark Maron's WTF podcast, and he deleted this because I destroyed him. And he was like, well, the problem with education is it's systemic, and there's not one magic thing that can fix it all. And I go, yeah, there is. Make it possible to fire teachers. You can do that in charter schools. They get paid less than public schools, and all charter school teachers are better than public school teachers. Teachers. It's just a given because you can get fired. Public school teachers currently live in a communist society where their jobs are guaranteed. Even if they molest a kid or say the N-word, they go to a rubber room. So there's a great book by Peter Brimelow called The Worm in the Apple. And in it, he has a PDF where he maps out how unbelievably complicated it is to fire a teacher, where you go to this department and they submit this PDF and they just put you in a maze. It's literally a maze. See if you can dig that up.
Okay.
Worm in the Apple, Brimelow firing teacher PDF. No, it's not. Book chart. Yeah, PDF's a dumb thing to put in there. No, I don't see it. It's probably hard to find. It's an old book. It's probably from the 90s. But yeah, this is why teachers are so bad. If you accidentally tell prepubescent children that sex is a valid form of love, you should be fired. Bye-bye. Next. But he's not even going to get a slap on the wrist. Go ahead.
Already been handed out to all of my 8th graders. So here's the thing though, like anytime any student has come ask me any questions about anything regarding to like sexual orientation, like or like inappropriate acts like that, I have always told my students, like, I am not the one you should ask about these things. Ask your parents, right?
I get that, but what I'm trying to explain to you is you're being suggestive.
Right.
Through a piece of paper. You may not have said it verbally, but through a piece of paper, you were suggesting to your students that in their writing, if they would like to have a character show affection, one of the ways in their writing they could is have their characters have sex.
Yes, and I'm telling you that was an unintentional mistake.
Bullshit.
Okay, but you told me you looked at it and you did see it, and it didn't even raise a flag.
Right, because for me, it's not something that would raise a flag. It's more that I looked over, I read through it. It's a detail I may not have caught.
Is that the end?
That's the end.
I'm totally okay with it. That's why I didn't notice it. Well, okay, so we're back to square one. I don't want you telling kids that sex is a great way to love. And is that in Ohio? Is that in Mormon country?
Utah.
Yeah, Utah. That's what I meant to say. That's Mormon country. So now the Mormons are talking about fucking kids? Great. So I think that's God's way of saying, don't sleep on your school, check your kids' homework, talk to your kids about school. Don't assume these assholes know what they're doing. I fucking hate teachers.
Project Mockingbird was the project of the deep state to control us via the media. But it worked much better in an era where there were 3 broadcast networks. You didn't have to control that many properties. The reason that the narrative broke was because Goliath was focused on controlling the mainstream media properties, and it didn't think it had to care about the off Joe Rogan man cave stuff. Why should it care what a podcast was? Who cares what gets said on pirate radio, right? But that mattered a lot because people, when they realized they were being lied to and they were doing harm to themselves because of those lies, tuned out the mainstream media and they started searching for information elsewhere. The punchline is, if you want to beat the deep state, what you need to do is you need to drag Goliath onto territory he doesn't understand. That's where we win.
When you think about the entertainment industry, what comes to mind? Movies, TV, music, right? Let's talk about this entertainment.
I've been observing you.
What if this entertainment was more than just entertainment?
Now in complete control.
When you're driving home from work, what are you listening to? When you come home after a long day and turn on the TV, what do you see?
The U.S. are bracing. Saying that the one.
Think about all the content you've seen throughout your whole life. A lot of it has actually made us who we are today.
So you don't know what's really going on.
Have you ever stopped for just a second, though, and questioned the content? The only thing we consume more than content is air. But we actually think about the quality of the air we breathe. Maybe it's time to take a closer look at our content.
And fear. Access.
Our government's always controlled our content.
The fight for freedom.
We've just never paid attention.
Freedom of speech.
Message received.
The police occupy our community.
To work with the CIA to destabilize foreign countries.
This media that we're consuming at such a rapid rate, we need to slow down and think about what we're consuming.
Bullshit going on.
What if the people in charge didn't have our best interests in mind? Now we have to ask ourselves, who's influencing our content?
So in 2013, it was legalized in the United States to propagandize its citizens. What? Like, that's some scary third world stuff going on. That's the kind of stuff that people use to topple governments, to take away freedoms.
Yes, you heard that right. Almost a decade ago, propaganda was legalized in the United States with the passage of the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act, which you've probably never heard of. The Smith-Mundt Modernization Act was buried in the 2012 National Defense Authorization Act for a good reason, because it repealed the 1948 Smith-Mundt Act, which authorized the State Department and the mainstream media to engage in propagandizing foreign countries, but it prohibited releasing that same propaganda in America for public consumption. This prohibition was lifted when the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act was signed into law by Obama.
Very simply, Obama gave it a reboot in 2012. So, no matter how outrageous the propaganda may be, it's completely legal.
Propaganda, in other words, a false narrative for whatever specific purpose, is now much, much easier to perpetrate on the people.
Due to the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act, which went into effect on July the 2nd of 2013, scripted and orchestrated propaganda can now be presented to the American public as factual news.
There's a provision in the CIA charter that says that the CIA cannot propagandize the American people. President Obama adopted that, essentially reopened the door for Operation Mockingbird so that the CIA began once again to propagandize American people.
How are they doing that, President?
High-level intelligence officials or people associated with the intelligence industry are running those journals, like Noah Schlachman, who runs Rolling Stone, who came from Daily Beast. Daily Beast was run by John Avalon, who was, who has deep ties to the intelligence agencies. But even journals like Smithsonian and National Geographic, Nature, the Washington Post, the New York Times appear to be compromised by the CIA. We know from the Twitter files that both the FBI and CIA were operating portals within the Twitter and Facebook that allowed them to manipulate information and to deplatform people and to, silence certain people that they didn't like in the social media. Operation Mockingbird was an operation to compromise American journalists. There were some 400 editors, journalists, from all the largest publications. The New York Times had been compromised. The Washington Post was basically...
What do you mean by compromised for people who...
Well, they were functioning, the high-level people at those journals were working for the agency or had, signed secrecy agreements with the CIA. And at CBS, ABC, NBC, after '75, when it all came out, during the Church Committee hearings, the CIA promised that it would no longer compromise American journalists. It continued the program to compromise journalists all over the world, and today the CIA is the biggest funder of journalism in the world.
And how about present day?
They fund it through USAID.
It's exactly like acting. There's a script, and that's the truth.
And that is the truth.
And that
is the truth.
And that's the truth. There's action involved.
That's what you just saw. That's what you just saw.
That's what you just saw.
That's
what you just saw.
There's editing involved. It has all the same exact clips.
Elon Musk to literally take a chainsaw.
Elon Musk take a literal chainsaw.
Literally take a chainsaw.
Elon Musk take a chainsaw.
His buddy Elon Musk.
Elon Musk take
a chainsaw.
It's exactly what actors do. They get a script, they read it in front of a camera on cue, they do the actions. I mean, that's how these people are not considered actors and yet politicians is really hilarious at this point. But it speaks to something else that has happened to people's minds. Because this shouldn't be working on anyone, I guess, is what I'm thinking, right? Like, this should not be garnering support from anybody to see this. It should be horrifying that they're all just repeating each other mindlessly like drones in some hive mind. Why would we need senators getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to just repeat the same talking points as each other from a script like actors? These people are not acting like individuals who have been voted to represent anybody. These people are acting like they're interchangeable with one another. You could swap one out for another one. It doesn't even matter. These are not, they're not portraying themselves as free-thinking people who have ideas to bring to the conversation. They all have the same idea.
Talk about things caught on camera. Bro, have you seen, okay, there's this clip of the Falcon 9 in space, and it was a live stream, right? And so it's showing the outside of the ship, okay? Someone spotted a mouse. What? On the outside of the thing. You can see it on video. You can see it crawl.
In space?
That's what I'm saying. That's what people are freaking out about, man. Because people are like, wait a minute.
Wait.
Is this true? Is this a live stream from actual space? Or is this some type of studio stuff and they just let something slip?
Oh, man.
But dude, I'll show you the video. It's absolutely crazy because you see it up close and you're just like, what is he looking at? And then you see something move that absolutely, that's 100% a mouse.
Oh my gosh.
And so it makes me wonder, like,
The new Ratatouille.
what are they up to? What are they filming?
astronaut.
What do you mean that could be an astronaut?
Right there. Wait! Dude, that's what I'm saying, bro. It's all over.
I mean,
But
it could probably live for like a little bit on the
Outside?
way to space.
No, your
On the
head
way.
explodes.
That's why I'm here today, because they don't have a voice, but I do. And I've been called a Nazi, a Jew hater, an anti-Semitic, a no-good SOB for telling the truth that our government won't do. From LBJ to Donald J. Trump, the president right now will not touch his subject. It's buried like anything you could ever believe. And we're alive and we're telling the truth. And we asked President Trump, hey, you're opening up JFK, you say, RFK, MLK Jr. What about the USS Liberty? It's been almost 58 years. Tell the truth about it. It was a pre-planned attack, and our government set us up to be slaughtered by a foreign government, and they couldn't wait to do it. They enjoyed what they did. They enjoyed killing American sailors on the high seas.
While other networks lie to you about what's happening now, InfoWars tells you the truth about what's happening next. InfoWars.com/go.
Owen Schroyer here from InfoWars, and today we are going to be hearing a war story from an incident that doesn't get much coverage until recently. And we're going to talk to one of the survivors of the USS Liberty about that day, the epic day that it was, as well as some of the events surrounding that incident that are now popping up in modern-day American politics and geopolitics. So joining me in the InfoWars studios is USS Liberty survivor Phil Turney. Phil, I'm glad you're here.
Well, thank you. I'm a pleasure to be here, and thank you, Owen. I appreciate the invite.
And I'm learning through our discussion previously, you've been pretty busy lately.
Yeah, real busy. Traveling the country, doing a lot of interviews. Old State Saloon, Mark Fitzpatrick. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
I have. He did something very politically incorrect recently, didn't he?
Yeah, I did.
You know, you do that, you get some good press nowadays.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure it's good for you and your group. You are the 4-time president of the Liberty Veterans Association. I'm sure the interest in the press regarding the USS Liberty and the survivors is probably a good thing for you.
It's the best thing that ever happened to us is the alternative media, the internet, and things like that, because the mainstream media are basically bought and paid for by people that want to hear from me, people that just want to sweep it under the rug and say it was an accident when it was a pre-planned attack by the Zionist state to murder us all with the help of our government. They set us up.
Well, and it's a story that for somebody like me, I'm a younger guy, it wasn't really in political discussions. You didn't really see it. I don't even know, and I'll ask you this later on, but I don't even know if it was in U.S. history books. I don't know if that's something that your group has looked into. I'm wondering, is it even covered in the history books? I mean, you can't look at every single one, but it's like, does it get omitted?
Yeah, it's not talked about. Everybody says it was a mistaken identity, and that is a lie. It's been a lie for the last almost 58 years.
Well, I do want to talk about that and some of the discussion that goes on with that today. But really, what I want to start the conversation with is the story from that day. I really want to get the picture painted, the sights, the sounds, the smells. And for somebody like you, your life is on the ship. You, your shipmates, that's your life. So let's kind of talk about that. How many people were on the USS Liberty?
294 souls.
And how many days were you guys out at sea consecutively for this tour?
Well, usually we went. Our steaming was usually up and down the west coast of Africa. The USS Liberty was the most sophisticated spy ship in the world at the time. We could bounce signals off the moon and send them back to NASA within 3 seconds back then. So you can imagine what they can do now.
And then this is in the 60s. This is the late 60s
right.
This is going on.
Yeah. I got aboard the ship in 1965, and I made the last 3 cruises with it, including the last one. I missed the first cruise, but I went on the last 3.
So when you say a spy ship, what does that entail? What is the mission of the crew?
The mission of the crew is to pick up signals out of the sky, or any way we could get them, and send them back to NSA for them to decipher it if we couldn't do it aboard ship ourselves.
So you're normally coasting along Africa, and were you guys moved in a weird thing? Was it something like you got sent somewhere else and you were like, this is strange? Did you even think twice about it?
It was very strange, Owen. Our first port, we were on our way to Africa like we always did. We got in Abidjan, Africa. We were there about, probably 4 hours. And most of the guys had got on the beach already to, get some beer and a little rest and relaxation, get some good food. But all of a sudden, General Quarters rang, and they said, get everybody back aboard ship ASAP. Even if you got to leave them, we got to take off right now. They did get everybody back aboard, and we took off for parts unknown as fast as we could go. In fact, George Golden, my division officer, and he was in engineering. John Scott was my division officer, but he was the head of engineering. George Golden, he had to take the governors off the main engines so the ship could go faster. And it was old World War II Victory ship turned into a spy ship. So we didn't know where we were going, but we ended up in Rota, Spain, and picked up 3 more linguists. They were Marines. 2 of them were killed, by the way.
These are translators?
Yes. Arabic and other languages, because I wasn't a spy. I was in ship's company engineering. And we also picked up another NSA, CIA type guy named Alan Blue. And he was also killed. But we picked up those guys, and we headed into the Mediterranean and figured out we were going into the war zone. All the ships were going the other way, and we were the only ones going that way.
So the call comes in immediately. It's a little unorthodox. You're kind of thinking, this is strange, but you have your command. Then you're picking up these translators. And are you normally dealing with people that speak Arabic? Was that kind of another thing that was strange?
Arabic, Russian, probably Hebrew too. I mean, there was two parts of the ship. There was like 200 spies, and the rest of the crew were ship's company, and that's what I was in engineering.
So you're below deck normally?
Well, yeah, in the engine room and stuff like that, but I worked above deck in sounding security and damage control.
Okay, so you get the call, you're going to waters you're not normally in, you're picking up some translators, then you're en route, all the other ships are coming the opposite direction. Was there any point in time where maybe you're kind of looking at your crewmates, or, you know, everybody kind of looking around like, this is strange, what's going on here? Or was it just mission oriented, we have our orders, we're going in?
Yeah, we thought it was very strange. The Captain McGonigal, asked for a destroyer escort because we knew we were going to a war zone. We knew the 6-day war was on. Washington denied it, and he put in another request. They denied it again, said, you're a flagged American ship.
So no backup, in other words?
No backup at all. No backup at all. And there was a reason for that.
What do you think that reason was?
We were set up by our own government to have the Israelis sink us and blame it on the Arab states and bring us into World War III.
You know, I wanted to get into that, and we can go right into that now. What time did you realize? Do you remember what time of day it was when you realized you guys were under attack?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we did. But on the 7th of June, we arrived on station already. An Israeli reconnaissance aircraft, smaller planes, flying boxcar, DC-3, and other smaller prop planes, one engine, one prop. They would buzz the ship. They would come so low to the ship, it would shake the deck plates. We could see the pilots. We'd wave at them. They'd wave back. Everything.
So immediately you were on the radar.
Oh, yeah. Because we were alone. And we had Stars of Davids all inside the ship because everybody wanted the Israelis to win. I mean, they were our allies, we thought.
So you're on the ship. You've just docked. This is your first day after you were relocated. The Israeli planes are flying overboard. And
when we get in the Mediterranean, in the war zone.
Okay.
That's when that happened.
So the Israeli planes are flying overboard, and you're just thinking, okay, this is our allies. They're just buzzing us in a war zone.
Nothing to worry about.
Okay.
Nothing
Was it even comforting?
Oh, it felt very great because, you know, because nobody else was there to help us. We thought the Arabs would come get us.
So you're there on the 7th. When did the events on the 8th, the day of the attack, just kind of walk me through that day. Kind of walk me through the 8th. I'm sure the whole day is very, very solid in your memory.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, we got up at 0600, 6 o'clock, took a shower, went to chow, went to work. It's the same thing we always did every day. I mean, it was like Groundhog Day.
Are you on the dock at this point still?
No, we're out at sea.
Okay.
Yeah, we're out in the Mediterranean, 12.5 miles off the coast of Sinai. Always in international waters, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
The airplanes, the recon airplanes came over again. The very next, yeah, at daylight, they started buzzing our ship, taking pictures, and it's still the same thing. They would dip their wings, and we felt very comfortable because our best buddies in the whole wide world knew we were there because nobody else was there. And then they left. We had a general quarters drill. It was a chemical drill. And that lasted about 45 minutes or an hour. We trained a lot on that ship for different reasons, you know, fire and damage and just everything else. chemical drills. And that's what it was that day. I was in an impregnated suit, and it was hot out. A bright, beautiful, sunny day. Over 12 knots of wind coming across the deck. The flag was flying. It was a brand new flag, by the way, a 5x8 colors. Brand new. Everybody could see it. And we secured from general quarters. And the sound power phones weren't working in the forward gun mount, the starboard gun mount. It was my job as assistant on-scene leader at the time to make sure everything was working. So I went and got a ice seaman. He took care of the internal communications and things like that. And we went back up to the starboard gun mount, and he says, "I'll take care of it, Turney." And the gunner's mate was up there too. And I looked up to the bridge and I saw the old man up there, and he didn't like people goofing around. You better be doing something. So I says, "Guys, I got to get out of here." Now you could see the bombs and everything bursting on the Sinai.
Like out in the distance. This is
Yeah, it's 12.5.
But for the most part, you guys are on sea, normal day.
Normal day.
The routine.
Normal day. Nothing. We had no fear. We had our beautiful American flag to protect us. I left the starboard gun mount, walked down the ladder. I took about 30 seconds to get back to my workstation. I got inside my workstation in the ship fitter shop. And they said, "Prepare to test the motor whaleboat." They do that every day to make sure it's running in case anything happens. And it blew up, I thought. I started to go out the hatch, and the chief grabbed me by the nape of the neck and said, "Man, we're under attack."
So it was that quick. It was like
Boom.
morning routine, and before you could even finish with it, you're under attack.
Under attack.
About what time of day was that?
As 2 o'clock in the afternoon, their time. And I went down through the mess decks, made my way up to the forward repair party. The chief had already been hit. He was the on-scene leader, and then he left. He says, "You got it, Turney." And I was a 20-year-old kid, and I was in charge of damage control. But I was good at my job. I knew what I was doing.
How much damage had you taken at this point? Was it just the one explosion? Or was
No, they were airplane after airplane after airplane.
So these were aerial assaults.
Yeah, by Mystère and Mirage jets, French jets.
Was there anything under the water, or was it all aerial?
Well, there were submarines there. There were 2 American subs, the Amberjack and the Andrew Jackson, and there was also a Russian sub under us. Russian sub, a nuclear sub. And I got up to the main deck, and the 2 men that I had just left there were vaporized. All you saw was pieces of meat and bone and blood dripping all down the side of the bulkheads.
This was on the gunner's deck?
Yeah, it was on the forecastle. There was 450 caliber machine guns on that ship, 2 in the front of the ship on the forecastle and 2 midships. They took out every tuning antenna on that ship, and every watertight door on that ship was hit within 3 or 4 seconds. They know exactly what they were doing and how to do it.
Well, that's where I was going to go. It sounded like they had the blueprint for the ship, and they knew this is where we wanted to do the damage.
That's what they did, exactly.
So someone had to give them that.
Yeah, well, the pictures and everything else. And
do you think that was what was happening the day before? They were doing
No,
recon?
I think this attack was planned a year in advance. A year in advance. Because things like that just don't happen that quickly. They're all planned. And they took out everything. And anything that moved on that deck was shot or killed.
How many waves of attacks were there?
Well, that went on for 25 minutes, just the air attack.
Just one long wave of attacks?
Just cannons and rockets and machine guns.
How equipped were you guys to even be involved in an assault like that?
We weren't.
You're a spy ship.
We're a spy ship. We're not a warship. We're an auxiliary ship.
And once they took out the people that were manning the guns, what else did you have?
We had nothing. The only thing we could do is try to help our shipmates.
Was there a distress call?
Terry Haldebardier took a tuning antenna offline because it wasn't tuning. And they used heat-seeking missiles to hit the ship. And every tuning antenna throws out a heat wave. They hit everything except that one antenna. Terry ran a long wire coaxial cable to the antenna and got a message out about 9 or 10 minutes after the attack started. That message was picked up by the Mighty Sixth Fleet, the USS Saratoga, USS America, and their sister ships. USS Rockstar, they all picked it up. In fact, they picked it up as far away as Vietnam. They could hear our cries. Rockstar, Rockstar, under attack by unknown jet aircraft. Help us, Rockstar. Captain Tully off the USS Saratoga sent jets to come help us. Even before they hit the horizon, they were recalled back by McNamara, Secretary of Defense.
They stood down.
They stood down. They didn't want them to help us.
Were there ever any answers for that?
No. In fact, McNamara said he never heard of the USS Liberty, and that's on tape. He didn't want to talk about it. He didn't want to talk about it. I know nothing about the USS Liberty.
Sure, nobody does.
Nobody does. And then get this on. They go to the next higher command, which is the President of the United States. The America launched and Saratoga launched again. LBJ, that snake, got on the phone and says, return those GD aircraft back to the bases right now. I could care less about a few dead sailors. I will not embarrass my ally Israel.
Did someone on the phone hear that?
Everybody
on the
heard
ship? Everybody heard that from the president.
It went to the command, Admiral Geis. I think he was on the Rockstar. I forget what ship he was on. I forget. But he picked that up, and he said, bring him back. Now, how do you know who was attacking us if we didn't? And so they took those aircraft back. They left us out there. And the attack continued for a remainder of 25 minutes. And then they left. Thank God, they're gone. We thought the Arabs were coming to get us. Actually, I thought it was probably World War III, and they had other things to do.
Something bigger was going on.
Yeah, they couldn't come help us. And we didn't know anything about this. But then the attack continued for another hour and a half.
So you had a brief lull before it came back?
Yeah.
Were there more aircraft the second go around, or what was that?
No, they sent 3 torpedo boats out.
Okay, so now the attacks were coming from the water.
Water. And that was the deal, to take our ears away and our eyes away from us, and then send the torpedoes in to sink us, the torpedo boats.
So they stood down any air support, and they stood down before you even got there. They stood down any backup that you might have. At this point in time, what is the status of your submarines?
Oh, I don't know what they're doing. We did see a periscope.
But you don't know whose it was?
No, I had no idea.
Could have been the Russians?
No, it could have been ours. It could have been, I heard the USS Amberjack filmed the whole attack. One of our own submarines filmed the whole attack.
Did anybody ever see that footage?
Probably LBJ and whatever rock he's under still.
Likely they wanted to use that for propaganda.
Oh, absolutely. So the torpedo boats, they fire 5 torpedoes at us. And 2 went aft. I saw 2 go aft. And where the other 2, I don't know where they went. And one hit the communication spaces dead on and blew 25 Americans, beautiful spies, young men. I was only 20 years old at the attack. Most of those guys, the oldest One down there was probably 26, 27, 28. And those guys were blown to bits. I mean, they were literally in pieces. They were gone.
So let me kind of recap this. It's about 2 o'clock, normal day, normal routine, sun shining, flag waving. The attack starts. You're first kind of shocked. You don't know what's going on. You go to the deck. You see the guys you were just with moments ago completely gone. They're gone. They're obliterated. The first attack hits. What do you know how many people died in that first wave?
There was 9 men that died initially in the air attack. And then the torpedo boats come in. They hit us with the one torpedo, and they circled the ship and using cannons.
Now you're surrounded.
And shooting anything on the deck that moved, anything that moved. I mean, they wanted everybody eliminated.
What was the time period before when you had that lull after the airstrikes to when the water attack started happening?
Probably 4 or 5 minutes.
So you got like 5 minutes where you're kind of like recalibrating. Are you assessing the deck, assessing the damage? Like, what is that 5 minutes like?
Well, it's horrific. I mean, you got guys on the deck that are blown up bad. I mean, hurt bad.
Some still alive, some dead?
Yeah, some still alive, some dead. But the wounded were terribly wounded. I mean, gashes and pieces of bone and legs and arms and just, I mean, you could see everything, their flesh. And we took them in. In fact, it was like this. We would throw them inside the hatches just as fast as we could get them in there.
Just to get them out of the sight.
Out of sight. But those torpedo boats had flags on them, Israeli flags. Then we thought they were coming to help us, but no, they come there to sink us.
So for a moment, there was like a glimpse of hope, you thought.
Absolutely. We felt relieved. Here's our buddies, man. Here they come. Here comes the cavalry.
Now, because you said they were unmarked airplanes, so was it not the same airplanes you had seen doing the recon the day before?
No, these airplanes, the recon airplanes, were all prop jobs, and they used jet aircraft for the attack. And
But no markings. You didn't know who it was.
No, I had no idea. Had no idea who they were. Like when we got the message out, Rockstar under attack by unknown jet aircraft, we couldn't identify them.
Well, I can only imagine what's going through your head. First, the shock attack, unknown. You don't know who's doing it. You've got like a moment of time to kind of recalibrate, try to figure out what's going on, clean up the deck, just reassess the situation. Then you see what you think is your allies coming to help you. And it's like, I'm sure there was a moment of hope there, a moment of relief. When did it all change? When did it all turn?
Oh, it all turned for the worse when the torpedo hit. We knew who was doing it. And they finally left after 2 hours or an hour and a half.
Was it just a nonstop barrage?
Nonstop.
Explosion after explosion?
Nonstop. For a solid 2 hours.
So what are you doing at this point? Just clinging to survival, just trying to hide? Or where do you go?
Well, there was no place to hide. I mean, there were over 821 rockets. In fact, they say there was 821 rocket cannon holes in the ship. I helped count all those holes when we got into Valletta, Malta. We got to 850. They said, "Quit quitting. Don't add them up anymore. That's enough." And they ended up with 821. But we counted 850. So I don't know why they come up with 821. I guess it sounds a little bit better than 850. But it was just hell on earth. And then the torpedo boats left, and we thought it was over again. But no, it wasn't. Here come troop-carrying helicopters with Israeli Marines on them to board our ship and scuttle it. They were either going to rope down or ladder down, however they wanted to get on the board the ship. There was a helicopter. I was on the main deck, come up to the starboard side, and there was a Marine on that helicopter with his feet on the skids with an automatic weapon pointed right at me. And I gave him the finger. I figured I was a dead man anyway. And he looked at me and just smiled. And then they left.
At this point, they had to know you were Americans. I mean, there had to be no doubt.
Well, they fessed up. Well, we mistakenly thought it was the El Quasir, which was an old horse transport. It wasn't even, it was not even half the size of USS Liberty. It wasn't configured at all like it. In fact, Admiral Moore said there's no way that could ever happen. He says, no.
Well, especially when you're dealing with this high level of military actions, they're going to know, obviously, the ship they're attacking. But I think, to what you were talking about earlier, they clearly knew that they were targeting the USS Liberty because they targeted the communications, the doors, the guns. So they knew exactly who they were attacking. Somebody gave them the layout for that boat. They didn't confuse it.
No, it's impossible to confuse it. They know exactly who we were. In fact, they identified us on as American and friendly. And they said when they changed the watch in their war room, we were on the plotting map. They took it off when they changed the watch, and they forgot to tell the other watch commander that we were in the area. I mean, come on, man. That's so ridiculous.
It's impossible.
Yeah, how could you bring up a story like that? It is impossible.
Yeah.
Simply impossible. And then here comes another helicopter. It's an Israeli helicopter with a Commander Castle. He was the attaché in Tel Aviv. And he dropped a brown bag with orange in it. My friend and shipmate, Rick Ametti, took it up to the bridge, and there was a card in it. Have you casualties? There's blood everywhere on the deck.
They probably could have seen it from the helicopter.
Yeah. Have you casualties? Are you kidding me? In the blood was about this thick, that deep of blood. And it was so hot that day, it coagulated and almost got like